Morning, people. Morning. Hopefully, everybody can hear me just fine. How's everybody doing today? Get on in here. Get on in here and let's do some YSL Rico trial type stuff today. So, we are waiting for a verdict. And do y'all think today is going to be the day? Are y'all with me? I predicted yesterday that today would be the day. Well, I said by the end of today, actually. So I said sometime between yesterday and the end of today, we would get a verdict. So that's my prediction. And I based that on a an observation that on Wednesday, it seemed like the jury was probably working on Yak's case. All of their questions they asked were pertained to Yak. And it seems like today they're not today, yesterday, and they had two different sets of questions and they pertain to Shannon. So my thought was that they would work through Yak stuff on Wednesday and then work through Shannon stuff yesterday and today. Brooklyn says Thursday. Yeah, they could take longer, y'all. They could take longer. People are starting to come up with different thoughts about this. I've seen people online saying that they think that the jury pool has been tainted, that there might be somebody in the jury pool who is a plant. People saying that they think that the state has planted somebody in the jury. How would that happen? How could that possibly be? I have no idea how how the state could get somebody in the jury pool. So I really don't know how that would work. But people have been saying that. Morning Slim Life. They got a chance to beat the murders, but they'll be guilty for the gang charges. But we never know because Georgia dirty. You know, there is something that I want to clarify that I have been perpetuating for the last several weeks that I think needs clarification because I myself received clarification recently. And my understanding now is that you don't just get a gang charge. Like for so long, people saying being in a gang is not a crime. And I was saying, well, being in a criminal street gang is a crime. But it doesn't seem like that's quite the way it works. It appears that your gang charge is associated with another charge. So, for example, in the case of Yak, and that's why I asked y'all, does anybody have the most recent copy of the indictment? I have the older copy. I've been looking for the more recent copy and I haven't found it. But anyway, Yak's charges seem to be that the gang charge seems to be an enhancement or connected to some other activity, not something that stands all by itself. So live and learn. Imagine not you, but somebody's being charged with selling marijuana. I mean, that's essentially what Yak's charged with, not with selling, but with possession with intent to distribute. It seems like the gang charges is an enhancement or slapped on top of that. So, in other words, if you get found not guilty of the possession with intent to distribute of marijuana, then you also will by default not get the gang charge, because the gang charge seems to be in addition to the marijuana charge, if that makes sense. So if that's the case, it doesn't seem like it seems like Yak could very well beat the gang charge because he could very well beat the marijuana charge, if that makes sense. So the gang charge is not a standalone charge, or from what I've seen in the indictment. But I don't. I have a copy of the older, the first version of the indictment, and it has changed significantly since then. So I really would prefer to look at that, the updated indictment. I've been looking online, but I just haven't found it. So I don't know what's going on. Verdict today or first thing tomorrow? How could it be first thing in the morning though? Like, how many verdicts have we seen that have been first thing in the morning? Seems like you would have to come in, and if it's going to be first thing in the morning, then it seems like you could just do it before you leave. I think it's Dree. Gang charges almost always don't stand alone. They're used to enhance other charges to give the person more time. Yeah, so I think I was mistaken in my way of talking about the gang charges previously, y'all. So you're gonna hear me say that frequently about different things because I'm mistaken sometimes. And so the gang charges I was treating them like standalone charges. Like, well, obviously you were part of a gang, a criminal street gang, but the indictment does not treat them as standalone charges. As far as I've seen, the indictment treats the gang charges as an enhancement for other charges, or as um, a penalty worsener, basically. So when you look at it like that, you can't get a worse penalty for the gang if you don't get found guilty of the underlying crime, which in Yak's case would be the possession of marijuana with intent to distribute. And I think one of the gun charges, or some of the gun possession charges, with the exception of the machine gun, I also think is part of that as well. So these were materials that were found in Thug's house when Yak was apparently not living there. So if the jury says, well, he was at Thug's house, all of this stuff was around him, but he didn't possess any of this either actually or constructively, we don't buy that marijuana was his. We don't buy that those guns were his. Then the gang charges would also go away, because those gang charges enhance the marijuana and the gun possession charges. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? So I think Yak could possibly walk on the whole thing. I think Yak could possibly just go home. I don't think Shannon's going to get a not guilty across the board. Okay, so that's my prediction. If I'm predicting, I don't know if I want to predict that Yak's gonna go home, walk, that he's gonna be not guilty across the board, but I could certainly see it. I could certainly see it. The jury did ask to see the Donovan Thomas footage again. The Donovan Thomas, the footage and the related footage at the gas station. They were probably looking to see Yak's interaction with the Infinity. They were probably paying attention to whether he got into the Infinity. They were probably paying attention to whether the white Bonneville came down the road either shortly before or after the shooting. Yak did not get into the Infinity. Yak did not ride off in the Infinity. The white Bonneville did not come down the road either shortly before or shortly after the shooting. So the jury would have seen that, and that combined with Woody and everything he said, I think gives enough reasonable doubt as to whether Yak actually participated actively Hilton did try to muddy the waters by saying Yak was the spotter, so he's just as guilty as everybody else. So one thing that you'll notice the state did is that they offered multiple different theories as to how people could have been involved in certain things. Um, and sometimes I think that's okay, and sometimes it seems like they're trying to do a catch-all. Sometimes it's okay, right? Like sometimes it's all right if you want to offer multiple theories. Like for example, I'm fine with the state offering multiple theories for the drink shooting as to whether or not, Shannon stuck his hand out the car, or did he leave his hand inside the car, or did Demekion do it from the passenger seat? That I'm okay with that because um frankly, there's no way to know. So, they have to say, well, it could have happened this way, that way, or that way. They can't give you one set way that they think it happened. They just can't. So you as the juror, you can analyze it. Okay, well, if he stuck his hand out the car, we would have found bullet casings, right? But we didn't. If he kept his hand inside the car, we would expect to have GSR in the car, but they didn't find that either. And it's unlikely that Demekion in the passenger seat is going to reach across the driver and start shooting. Possible, but it's hard. It's a little hard to believe. It's possible, but it just doesn't seem believable. So we have no GSR if the hand's in the car. We have no bullet casings if the hand's outside the car. And that the passenger did it, you still would have the GSR, wouldn't you? And also, it seems a little strange that the passenger is shooting across the driver, though not impossible. So I'm okay with them offering the different theories as it relates to that. Okay. So just me, I can accept it. Taylor, good morning. Good to see you in the chat. Y'all, if y'all haven't been following Taylor, follow Taylor. She was nice enough to allow me to use some of her footage probably 2 months ago, 3 months ago at this point. And that was related to Quindarius Zachary's father and some interviews she secured on X. Taylor's been blowing up. So thank you so much, Taylor. Good to see you there. So but I'm okay with all those theories, right? I'm okay with it could have happened this way, that way, or that way as it relates to drinks. For some reason, just personally, I don't feel the same way when it relates to Yak and Donovan Thomas. I don't feel the same way with when Hilton says Yak could have just pointed him out. Or Yak might have gotten into the car and participated. Like, to me, that doesn't feel the same as multiple theories as to why Yak's guilty. Now, if you say Yak's in the car, maybe he did the shooting, maybe he just was riding along, I'm okay with that. Because in that sense, Yak is, anybody could be considered just as guilty. But you can't tell me that they might have been in different cars because we didn't see the Bonneville go down the road. So you got to give me something saying that either your theory is Yak was in the car or he wasn't. Like, so that's just for me. That's just personally. So, everybody has their own individual quirks. And my individual quirk as it relates to Donovan Thomas is I need a consistent theory as to what Yak did. Did Yak ride in the car that did the shooting? Or are you saying Yak did not ride in the car that did the shooting? Yak just alerted people that Donovan Thomas was outside, but that was the end of his involvement. I need for that one, I need you to tell me one or the other. Right? I need you to tell me one or the other. So with them not giving me a consistent, at least putting him in the car, right? They're saying he might not even have been in the car because we didn't see him get in the car, right? We didn't see him get in the car. The car being the gray Infiniti that did the shooting. So then you also add Woody and his testimony, and I just feel there's a lot of reasonable doubt as it relates to Yak. Right? So that's me. And so I think Yak could have reasonable doubt as it relates to DT. And then all of that stuff in Thug's house, inherent reasonable doubt for a guy like me because he wasn't living there. He wasn't living there. Right? So I'm like, he's not living there. We don't have any other evidence that he possessed either actually or constructively anything in that house, anything that was in common areas, let's say. So it's just basically, this is the kind of charge that I get it. You want to be able to charge people for items that are kind of in common areas. Like you can't just have a perfect defense that it's in a common area so nobody can be charged. I get it. We have to be able to charge people with items that are found in common areas. That's why there's a such thing as constructive possession. But I have reasonable doubt as to whether Yak was the person constructively possessing it. So therefore, I think Yak could possibly walk on everything. I really do. I'm not predicting he will, but I can certainly see it. I could see it. Shannon, I think they're at least going to get Shannon with the gun that was found when he was on the slow speed police chase. I think Shannon's going to get hit with the gun. The gun possession by a felon and all that stuff. Taylor, do you have a copy of the current indictment? Do you have a copy of the current indictment? And if so, would you send it over to me, please? If you have a copy, would you send it to me on X or anybody? Y'all, let me give y'all my X, please. The current indictment. I'm about to put my X account here. Anybody who has a copy of the current indictment, please send it over so I can take a look at it. Yeah, please do. So Taylor agrees he's probably getting the gun. So I think Shannon's going to probably have that gun. I mean, you have his girlfriend on recording saying he has my legal gun. Then, if I'm not mistaken, they find that same gun in the road or by the road in the same path that he had driven down on the slow speed chase. And some people are like, well, Quay could have had that gun. No. I mean, yes, when you start getting into, these theories of what could have been the case, correct. There's a lot that there's a lot of couldas we could throw out there, but we have to say, do we have a reasonable doubt? Like, is there some reasonable explanation that her gun that she says she gave to Shannon is found in a place where Shannon recently was running from the police? Is there a reasonable explanation as to why that gun would be there, other than the fact that Shannon had it and he threw it out the window of the car, or threw it or somehow got rid of it while he was on the chase? Is there a reasonable explanation, people? So we can't just find some explanation. It has to be reasonable. Yeah. Yes. Okay, good. Even if she left it in the car. But again, Taylor, remember, she said he has my gun. They have her on tape saying that. So, if she had said, oh, I accidentally left my gun in the car, I hope the police don't find it, I think Shannon might have a potential defense, but the fact that she said he has my gun and then they found that gun not on him, but in the area where he was recently. Yeah, nah. So the gun, to me, the most solid of all of the charges so far is that gun. To me, that's the most solid case that they've made. Now the drinks, people trying to kill him is not reasonable. So Teo, the doubt that you have to have is, did he possess the gun? So we're not looking for a reason that he would have had the gun. Is my mic cutting out? I don't know. We're not looking for a reason that Shannon would have had the gun. So it looks like you're focused on, did he have a good reason to have the gun? Yeah, he probably had a good reason, but he still did not have a legal, I guess I should say right. He didn't have a legal right. He didn't have a right to possess the gun as a convicted felon. So did he have let's say a moral reason or a self-defense reason? Yes. But the jury is not supposed to take that into account. Now, Max Sharp, to his credit, tried to get Judge Whitaker to make new law, and that's exactly what he called it. He tried to get Judge Whitaker to make new law and say, okay, I know that this guy is a convicted felon. I know that he, according to the statute, should not have a gun, but this person had been through so much that he still needed a gun for self-defense, and so therefore we're gonna allow it, meaning we're not going to even send this to the jury for a decision because we see his need for a gun based on what he's been through, even though he's a convicted felon. So Max tried that one. It didn't work. Judge Whitaker did seem, 20% open to hearing him. So she didn't just shut it down right away, but it didn't work. So, how long would SB do for the gun? Good question. I'm waiting to get the indictment. Once I do, I'll look up the exact penalties. The problem with the gun penalties, if I'm not mistaken, is they're consecutive. So gun penalties, if I'm not mistaken, and again, I'll look this up, y'all, so I'll correct myself if I'm wrong. But I believe gun penalties are consecutive, meaning when you have the gun penalty, that time that you have to serve, I believe, has to run after other time that you're charged with. So let's say you're charged with assault and battery and I don't know, malicious wounding. I don't know. Let's just make up some stuff. And you get 5 years for each. You, in theory, could do both of those 5 years together. So you're not doing 10 years. You're actually doing 10 years, but you're running the 5 at the same time. So you did 10 years, but you did them together. So out of your life, you only did 5, but you had 2 5s that ran at the same time. But with the gun charges, they put it at the end of your other sentences, so you can't run them concurrently. You have to run them consecutively. So let's say you had that malicious wounding, assault and battery, so you got 5 and 5. You run those together. But then let's say you also had that gun, and that's another 5. They wouldn't let you run the 3 5s together because one of those is a gun. They might let you run the 2 5s consecutively. So that's 5 years out of your life. But then they would tack that gun, that 5 years after the 2 5s you ran together. So in other words, it's going to be tacked onto the end. It's consecutive. It's not concurrent with the gun stuff. So this is just a total made up scenario, y'all. I don't, not saying that anybody in this case is facing that. But my point is, when you get those gun charges, they tack it onto the end. They don't let you run that at the same time. That's why Monk was looking at 30 years. If I'm not mistaken, a lot of this is just off memory, y'all, so don't go around quoting me. But Monk, he was looking at 30 years in prison. If I'm not mistaken, 15 of those years was for guns, but they wouldn't let him run the 15 years for the RICO and the 15 years for the guns together. So he would have to run his first his RICO years, then his gun years. So that is why he was looking at a total of 30. Where other charges, he might have been able to put those two 15s together and run them at the same time. So it still would have been 30 years, but they would have been concurrent. So it would have been 15 plus 15, but done together. Hopefully that makes sense. So they were asking about the gun, Sassy TV. Shannon is facing over 2 life sentences if he were to be convicted of everything. If Shannon's convicted of everything, he's never coming home, y'all. I mean, and without a miracle. If Shannon's convicted of everything, he's gonna be in prison forever unless he has a miracle. My email, okay. So Shannon is facing life for both murders plus some more time for the other stuff. So y'all, I went back and rewatched the I just put my email in the chat, by the way, y'all. I just went back and rewatched when Thug took his plea deal, and then Shannon and Yak basically had their little moment after to decide if they wanted to take a deal or not. Maybe I'll play that now. This might be a good time to play that, actually. I made a video of that over the weekend just to refresh in everybody's memory. But yeah, Yak's plea deal. Y'all, this is what Yak turned down. Yak's plea deal was for 20 years and served 15. So somehow I did not remember him having that plea deal, that plea offer. So he didn't take the deal, but that was the offer. It was 20 years in prison to serve 15. Okay. And this is a good point. Maybe if you take the plea deal, you give up your ability to appeal. So, that's a good point too. But Yak's deal was 20 years, served 15. That was his offer, his deal offer. Shannon's deal offer was 60 years in prison, served 40. So they were really looking like they really had two very different plea deals on the table. Yak was 20, served 15. Shannon was 60, served 40. Okay. I'm gonna play this video, y'all. Wait, it's only 15 minutes. It's only 15 minutes. I'm just gonna play this while we wait. If court comes on, I'll switch to court. Okay.
Some years. Mr. Stillwell's looking at 2 consecutive. I know my math isn't the best, but that's life plus some years. Mr. Stillwell's looking at 2 maximum of 2 life sentences plus
85 years.
Plus 85 years, Your Honor.
And we are back, y'all. Go ahead and hit that like button. It helps us out a lot. And it helps you because it helps us keep bringing you this content. Now, this morning, y'all, I'm going to follow up on a thread that Thugger Daily made just yesterday. And this is an important thread because I think as we look at these final days of the YSL trial, as we look at the final 2 defendants of at least this round of the trial, because remember, there are more defendants to come. But as we look at the final 2 defendants, Yak Gotti and SB, Shannon Stillwell, it might be easy to forget. We don't forget that they're facing time, but I guess it's easy to maybe not recognize exactly how much time they're facing. And Thugger Daily, in his most recent thread on X, and y'all should be following this, man. I mean, y'all already know, or these guys actually, y'all already know that they're doing excellent work. Thugger brings up a very important point. Check this out. So the authorities are looking to throw the book at Yak and at Stillwell. See, they're both of these guys have previous felonies on their record. And what does that mean? When you have a previous felony on your record, the state of Georgia really allows the judge to put very, very harsh penalties on you as it relates to any additional felonies. So as Thugger says, Georgia has pretty harsh sentencing rules for repeat offenders. Anyone convicted of a felony who already has a felony on their record automatically receives the maximum sentence. Now, part of the sentence can still be probation or suspended. That's up to the judge. So just because, say, you get 20 years, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to spend all 20 in prison. You may be able to spend part of that 20 out and about on probation, but you're still looking at significant time. And as we've seen with Monk Tonk, you can get a probation violation really, really, really easy. And then you can have that probation, at least part of it, revoked. And now you're back in prison. Now you're back locked up. And as Thugger points out, anyone who has 3 felonies in their record must serve 100% of any time they're sentenced to with no parole. So, Yak and Shannon, they are facing significant time. They both have prior felonies. They've both been to prison. And so with this process, if they are convicted of anything, basically, because they're only charged with felonies here, right? There are no misdemeanors. So if they're convicted of anything, they're facing significant time behind bars. So, for example, if they're convicted of RICO, they would automatically be sentenced to 20 years. Now, why would they get 20 years? Because the time to serve for a RICO conviction is between 5 and 20 years. With these guys having the previous felonies on their record, the law says that they need to be sentenced to the maximum. So they're not going to get the 5, they're not going to get 7, they're not going to get 10. They would be sentenced to the maximum side, which would be 20. See? So basically, due to their prior felony history, the weight of what's happening now is heavier on them than, for example, it would have been on Thug, because Thug did not have a criminal history. So when Thug was facing these same or similar charges as it relates to the RICO, as it relates to any kind of gang charges, if Thug had been convicted, he could have been sentenced to less time for the same charges. Why? Because he didn't have that criminal felony history on his record. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to actually go back into the video where Kendrick and where Stillwell both decide to go forward. This bears repeating. I just watched this video back myself. Okay. This is going to show you what deals they had on the table, and also going to show you how much time they're facing. Now, Kendrick, his maximum time would have been reduced some, because Doug Weinstein, his attorney, has successfully gotten a directed verdict for some of these charges, particularly the cocaine charge, the codeine charges, the machine gun charge. So Kendrick's maximum would be reduced. But I was surprised when I watched this back to see that his deal would have been a 20-year sentence for everything, only to serve 15. So I thought that was interesting when I watched it back. And also, you're going to see the deal that they were offering to Shannon. So watch this back, because this is going to give you an idea what the deals were that were on the table, and also what they rejected. And also, it's going to give you an idea of what the maximum sentences are that they're facing as we go forward to a verdict, probably sometime in the upcoming week. If you want to work in the legal field, or you just want to know your rights, go to careerparalegal.com. Y'all, we have been teaching people, training people, and helping people get in the paralegal field all across the United States and even across the world for over 20 years. So yes, this is legit. This is real. You can find a link in the description. And without further ado, let's get into it.
The Controlled Substance Act. That is
all right, people. So this is going directly into the, hold up, y'all. We might have a seal. Hold up now. I'm watching 2 streams. One stream just came up with a seal, but Law and Crime did not. But Fox did. So I'm keeping an eye on that. I don't see any activity just yet. Do I have to teach with the hoodie on? No, I don't use the hoodie when I'm teaching. Y'all, I do not use the hoodie when I'm teaching. Let me get rid of this. My wife is laughing at me now. Y'all just made my wife laugh at me. All right, let me go. Let me get this video back going.
For the possession.
Right, marijuana, which carries sentence of 1 to 10 years. As to count 59, I believe that's the possession of codeine with the intent to distribute, which is 1 to 5, which is 5 to 30 years, and count 59, which is the possession of cocaine, which is 60 is possession of cocaine.
So 59 was the codeine. 60
Right.
is the possession of cocaine, which was 1 to 5 years. Possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, which was count 61, which is 5 years to serve consecutive to any count indictment. Possession of a machine gun, which was count 62, which was 10 years to serve consecutive. And then he was charged with count 63, which is possession of a firearm by convicted felon pursuant to 1611-133. I know my math isn't the best, but that's life plus some years. The state's recommendation, Your Honor, was for Mr. Kendrick
Listen
to
up,
plead
y'all.
to count 1, conspiracy to violate the Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act, which was 20 to serve 15. Count 2, the murder reduced to voluntary manslaughter, 20 years to serve 15. 20 years to serve 15. And then to the gang count 57, also 20 years to serve 15, all to run concurrent, and the state was willing to null pros all the other counts in the indictment.
All right.
Okay, y'all hear that? So we have a couple of things happening with this. Remember, Doug did successfully get 3 of those directed verdict, the machine gun charge, and a couple of other things. So this was before the directed verdict, so we can't, we have to keep that in mind. But at any rate, she said 15 years, 20 years to serve 15 on pretty much everything. Okay.
And Mr. Kendrick and the attorneys associated with you, I want to make sure that y'all know that unlike what happened with Mr. Williams, if you plead non-negotiated to less than all of the charges, there is nothing that the court can do if the state chooses to go forward with some of those charges. So you could not.
Okay, so what she's saying here is that Kendrick he either has to do a full plea or don't take a plea. She's not saying he has to, but she's saying if he tries to pick and choose, I'm going to plead to this, but I'm not going to plead to that, the state can still, whatever that is, whatever he does not plead to, the state can still continue the trial on those charges. Okay. And when she said non-negotiated, that means that he had already rejected the state's deal. So he would be essentially throwing himself at the mercy of the court, saying, listen, the state's giving me a bad deal. I want to plead not non-negotiated. I want to just throw myself at the mercy of the court, and hopefully you'll give me a sentence I can live with. But the judge is saying, but you can do that, but you can't. It doesn't behoove you to only do that for certain charges and then not plead for other charges, because whatever you leave unpled, the state will just continue to prosecute you for it. So that's what she's saying here. He didn't plead at all. So, spoiler alert, but that's what the judge is saying here. So that's what y'all just heard, what his plea deal was. 20 years to serve 15. He was looking at life plus, I think we're going to hear at the end of this, life plus 110 years. I think it is what it was. Yo, thank you for the first super of the day. I need to get some of those sound effects. I go, all that stuff. Isn't there reversible error almost certain on appeal? So that is technically their max, however long the appeal process takes. Well, we don't know. So this is a thing, yo. You never know what would happen on appeal. So you have two ways to think about appeal. You really have 3. One is there something I could appeal here? And I'm not sure if the state of Georgia has automatic appeal, but either way, there is much that could be appealed. So yes, that's 1. 2, if I do appeal, would I win? Whatever that means. So now you have to get the appeal. If it's not automatic, you have to get it. 2, you have to win it. But 3, what is the remedy? Is the remedy that I just go free? is the remedy that they say retry the trial again, but don't do that. What would the remedy? What might the remedy be? So I definitely don't think that they're playing for appeal. I think appeal is like that thing where, you have it in your back pocket or you have it in the basement and you could whip it out if you have to. But by that time, things have gotten really, really bad. It's an appeal. Y'all always come up with these analogies. They're not always that good, but it's my style. So I'm going to keep doing it. Appeal is like having, those meal replacements, those dried. Has anybody ever become a prepper? My dad was like a not a full-on prepper, but like a semi-prepper. He's like a former Army guy. And he would buy these boxes with these meal replacements. Yeah, I mean, if things go bad, you want to have your dried food in the basement. But by the time you start eating that food, things have gone really freaking bad. And that's kind of how I see appeal. Like, yeah, you do have that option, but by the time you really are talking about that option seriously, your life has been effed up really, really, really bad. I mean, much worse than now, because at this point, they at least have hope that they'll be going home sometime this week. If you're really talking seriously about appeal, then you're like, I'll be up in here minimum, probably a couple of more years. And then will the appeal even render the type of result that I could live with? You know what I mean? So yes, I thank you for the super. I agree with you. I do think they have plenty of grounds for appeal, but it's like eating that it's like eating those meal replacements downstairs. I mean, yeah, you're gonna live and you'll still be here, but it's not gonna be fun and it's not gonna be enjoyable in the meantime. Slim Life, I see you threw me a $3.99 super sticker. I appreciate it. Also, I want to acknowledge, I did get an email from you, but I don't see any attachment with the indictment. So I'm still waiting for somebody to please send me over a copy of the most recent YSL indictment. I know I should have it, but I just haven't been able to find it. So let's continue watching.
Do what Mr. Williams pled guilty or nolo to each of the charges that he was facing. You cannot say, well, I'd like to plead guilty to count 1 and I'd like to plead to the reduced charge on count 2. And then I'd like to just skip the rest of them, because the state can say, well, we're not skipping the rest of them. We're still going to try you for the rest of them. And the state can also say, we're not okay with letting you plead to voluntary manslaughter unless you abide by the terms of the agreement. We're going to go forward with the murder trial. So I know that Mr. Weinstein, you and Mr. Apt and everybody else who's been helping know that, but because things seem to have worked out sort of beneficially for some of these other people who have already pled, y'all might think, oh, well, gosh, can't we do something better than that? Given what you're facing, they hold a lot of the cards, and a lot of it is outside of the ability of this court to change. Okay. All right.
We understand that, Your Honor. Thank you for advising us of that.
All right, Mr.
Sorry, I was on mute. My bad. So I was just saying that there we have a seal. I'll show y'all. We have a seal on Law and Crime. So this typically means there's gonna be some activity coming up. Okay, I see it, y'all. I corrected it. So typically this means we have some activity coming up. I'm not gonna just stay on the seal. I have it on my computer. So whenever some activity starts happening, whenever it moves, we'll go to it. But usually it'll take a few minutes before something happens. Y'all, this could be the verdict. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I guess maybe I should make a bigger deal out of this. This could be the freaking verdict. Can y'all hear me now? Y'all can hear me now, right? Okay. The verdict might be about to happen. Am I still muted? I'm not still muted. Somebody tell me y'all can hear me, because I took the mute off. Okay, good. Y'all, hold up. Like, I'm kind of like, downplaying it this early in the morning. What the heck could this mean? This is kind of it's a little bit nervous. It's a little nervous, y'all. Oh man, I'm feeling nerves now. I guess it's kind of coming to me that, is this gonna be another question? 56 said enough. Let me go to my I'm gonna go to a tweet that I put out yesterday. Y'all check out my tweet from yesterday. This is my hypothesis. I did say this on stream. Hypothesis of what's happening with the YSL trial. Jury. This is what my hypothesis of what's happening with the jury. Jury. They decided Yak's charges first. Now they're working on Shannon. At least some of them are sorely confused. And I don't mean in general. I just mean maybe about certain aspects. I mean, where did I get that from? They gave the wrong exhibit numbers yesterday. They talked about a call that didn't exist. So at least somebody or several people are confused about something. Okay. Answers in court showed the mistaken jurors their error, losing them credibility and making them more likely to agree with those who were right. So they have to come to a consensus, to a unanimous decision. And that almost inevitably means somebody has to give up on their position, right? I mean, we can all imagine the 12 of them, they didn't see things the same way. They're in there, they're talking about it, they're discussing it, and somebody has to give up and say, okay, I'll go with you. What's the most likely way that I can see that happening? Well, when I saw yesterday that they were asking for evidence that didn't exist, at least in two different pieces of evidence they asked, one of the numbers didn't exist, and then the other piece of evidence that they thought existed didn't. That tells me at least one person, maybe multiple people, were just getting stuff wrong in the jury room. Now, these are details, but we're talking about having people's life on the line, right? So my thought is, okay, if I'm getting the details wrong, then that hurts my credibility among the group as it relates to my position. So when we're dealing with people's future, if I'm on one side and I'm saying, well, my notes say this, and then the judge says, well, whatever your note said is wrong, basically, because that doesn't exist. My whole position is going to be hurt by that. My whole thing I'm trying to say is going to be hurt. And so that's going to cause me to either, if I don't fall back on myself, the other people in the jury could lose some credit. I'll lose credibility with them. Does that make sense? So I think yesterday, whoever thought that Shannon and Garlington had this call, if it was one or two people in particular or three, when that call, there was no call of that sort, that those people who thought that there was that call, their credibility went down. Whoever said that we want to hear exhibit number blah blah blah, and the judge is like, well, we don't have that exhibit number, it doesn't exist. That person or those people, their credibility went down. So we don't know what side they would be on, but that is what I think the dynamic is happening. Let me see here. Y'all do please hit the like button. Hit the like button. I hope there ain't one of them arguments. That's me. No, I will accept that I'm mistaken. I will accept that I'm mistaken. So I'm definitely argumentative, but I'll back off if I'm mistaken for sure. So I do think that if we're really looking for any kind of small indication of what might be the case, if we're just trying to nitpick and parse it out to the nth degree and just trying to get, I would say that yesterday when they asked to hear the call between Garlington and Shannon, and the judge says the call does exist where these things were said, but that was Garlington and Boyer. That wasn't Garlington and Shannon. Do you still want to hear the call? And they were like, nope. That kind of is good in a sense for Shannon. That little piece is good for Shannon as it relates to the drinks. Because what it tends to make me think is the fact they don't even want to hear the call. Either they're lost and they don't remember that Boyer was also on the scene, or there was a dispute and some people thought it was Shannon and Garlington. Some people thought it was Boyer and Garlington, or somebody else in Garlington. And they just went to court to ask for it to prove the people wrong who thought that was Shannon on the phone call. Yeah, I was surprised they didn't still want to hear it. And that is what leads me to think that might have been somebody proving a point. Okay, you think that call exists? We'll just ask her to play it. That's the only thing I can think, because that, or they're confused. Because if they know Boyer was in the car with Quay and Quay was on the scene, if they just want to hear the circumstantial evidence around it, of course you play that call. Because Boyer was there. And so was Garlington. So of course you play that call. So it's either somebody proving a point and or they're confused. Because if they're not confused and nobody's just trying to prove a point, heck yeah, we want to hear the call again, because we're trying to determine, did they say riding around the city or riding around 2C, right? But when they heard it was Boyer, it was like, nah, we don't need to hear it. Well, Boyer was there. He was in the car. So, it's not like he's just some random dude. So anyway, so I think they're either confused and or somebody was trying to make a point, because they were just like, nah, we don't even need to hear that call. Lady Red, hello. Probably the first time I interact with you. Welcome to the channel. The jury was asked to forget so many things that I really don't understand how they can possibly keep all the facts straight. Plus, the state has been using sneaky tactics. Tossle the jury. Well, is that to mislead? I guess to lead them. At any rate, I was curious to hear when the judge gave her instructions if she was going to go back and re-instruct about the things that she told them to forget. And she didn't do that, which makes sense, because if you want them to forget, why would you remind them? But this trial has been a mess. I think that's why someone earlier talked about reversible error and appeal. This trial is going to have 55 different ways to appeal it. But the question for right now is the jury in there? Are they acknowledging that they're lost? Do they know they're lost? Are they lost? Or do we just think they're lost and maybe they're not? Again, that question from yesterday about a call that doesn't exist to hear a call that never happened, that nobody ever played for them. And then when given the opportunity to hear the call that does exist, they don't even want to hear it. That is very concerning for me. It's you know, if you're looking for Shannon to have hope, it could give him hope on one hand, but it could also take hope because it's like, what are they even doing? Like, what are they even thinking about back there? So on one hand, it's a hopeful sign, but on the other hand, it's, you don't even know what the heck is going on in their head. They asked to hear lyrics to a song. It's like, what? You want to hear Lizard Walk? You want to hear Lizard Walk right now? Are you decided by fate? My 2 life sentences plus 85 years or whatever it is, you are gonna put on Lizard Walk? So we don't know what the heck is going on with them right now. Y'all feel me? Because it's like, yo, seriously, like, we're gonna play Lizard Walk right now. Like, Lizard Walk. I'm just saying. So I think you might be right. That Juror 56 could have gone back and said that the prosecution was confusing everyone to get to guilty verdict. Asking these calls could aid that theory. Yeah, so I'm seeing some movement, but still we don't have court yet. But it does look like we might be about to go to court. So again, y'all, matter of fact, I'll just put court on since we're just talking. Yeah, I definitely think there's a strong possibility that some of this evidence is not so much to try to discover what happened as it is maybe individual jurors or groups of jurors who are trying to prove a point to the other ones. So in other words, I don't necessarily know if they're all like, hey, what happened there? And everybody's like, I don't know. Let's just go look. That's kind of how we've thought about it. But there also could be groups or individual jurors who like, yo, I'm about to show you that I'm right and you're wrong. Let's just go ask to see this. So when we get back here, that's very much also a possibility. And particularly, again, I keep coming back to them not wanting to hear the call that they specifically asked to hear. It sounds like the fact they didn't want to hear it, was it just somebody saying, I told you so? I told you that wasn't Shannon and Garlington. I told you that was Boyer. I told you that was Garlington and some other dude, that wasn't Shannon. See? So I could because they didn't even want to hear it.
Good morning. Our court reporter's still getting set up, so I'm just going to get myself on Zoom and things like that. And we'll start after she's ready. Oh. Maurice. There's no rule 22 for this.
Oh, is this the other guys?
This needs to not be televised because we don't have everybody dressed out. Oh. Did you already submit that? Is that live stream?
They just told me to come film it.
They told you what?
They told me to come film it, but I'll turn it off.
Who told you that? Okay, well, it's not up to them. And really, none of that should have happened. I thought that was clear with the deputies yesterday because not everybody is dressed out. People in jail garb.
Y'all, that wasn't the YSL trial. No. That was not the YSL trial that we've been watching. I don't know who that guy was, but very likely he's one of the other YSL defendants. Yeah, the severed defendants hearing. I don't know which severed defendant that was, but she said they're not dressed out. What does that mean? So you can't film? Hold up. What? What the heck? That was Tenquarius Mender. Oh man, I'm about to look. Dang, Alicia, how do you know that? How do you know that? Could be. Could be Tenquarius. Yeah, I mean the fact that he has jail clothes on, but does that you can't film people when they have jail clothes on? What's Oh, I didn't know that. Because I thought that the idea behind filming was anything somebody who's in the court might see, the public at home should be able to see practically, except for when the judge gets up off of her bench, you have to stop filming basically. But any of the court proceedings that the public, that the people at in court could see, if you just showed up and went into court, if you could see it, if the judge is on the bench and you could see it, then people at home should be able to see it, is what I thought that the whole concept behind this was. So I get that it could taint the jury, but we've been seeing everything we've been seeing could taint the jury, people. Or are you saying it could taint a potential jury because they don't have a jury yet? All right, y'all. Okay. So it could taint a potential jury that doesn't exist yet. All right, so that wasn't the YSL. That wasn't the current YSL trial hearing. So what I'll do, let's go back and listen to the rest of this. So we heard Yak had on the table 20 years to serve 15. Okay. Yeah, I know. There have been some really, y'all want to know something about the names? We have Demikion, we have Diamante, we have Tenquarius. We have Shymel is kind of an interesting name. We have a lot of kind of interesting names in this. But then I noticed we also have some black guys with Latin names. Like we have two Antonios. We have Antonio Sledge and Antonio. What was Obama's name? Wasn't his name Antonio? Then you got a Martinez Arnold. That's like a Latin name. And there was like at least one other person with like a Latin name. I'm like, yo, Antonio Sumlin. So you have Antonio Sledge, Antonio Sumlin, Martinez Arnold, and then there was like another guy with a Latin name. I'm like, I wonder what was going on at that time in, 30, 40 years ago in Atlanta with, a lot of these names are just Rodalius. I mean, Woody's the only one who just has a normal. Well, I guess Antonio is really a normal name. Martinez is kind of like a last name. But Woody, what's Woody's first name, y'all? Woody's the only one that has like a real kind of just normal name. Anyway, I just found it interesting. But I think Tenquarius, what's the guy's name who shot the police officers? He also has an interesting name. Yeah, Jeffrey, Shannon, and Woody's name is why can't Kenneth? Yeah, Kenneth. Kenneth Copeland is the Jeffrey Williams, Shannon Jackson, and Kenneth Copeland are the most normalest names that you're ever going to hear. Jeffrey Williams has to be the normalest name that ever existed, right? Oh yeah, Christian Eppinger. Yeah, that's kind of a normal name too. When I say normal, I'm just saying common, right? I'm just saying common. Jeffrey Williams has to be the most of the normal names. Sergio, yeah, Sergio Kitchens, Sergio. I think that's the one I was looking for. Is like a Latin name. So anyway, y'all, just interesting. Let's listen to So Yak was facing, with the deal, he was looking at 20, serve 15, but he probably would have given up all of his appeal rights. Meaning he probably could have, if it would have been similar to Thug, he could have appealed his plea, but he wouldn't have been able to appeal his trial after taking the plea. So let's see what Shannon was looking at.
Stillwell is facing. Your Honor, Mr. Stillwell is also looking at count 1, which the conspiracy to violate the Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act, which is 5 to 20 years. He is facing 2 counts of murder for count 2 and count 49, which each carries a sentence of life imprisonment. He's also charged with count 50 of this indictment, Your Honor, which is participation in criminal street gang activity, which carries a sentence of 5 to 20 years. He's also charged with count 51, participation in criminal street gang activity, also a sentence of 5 to 20 years. Count 52, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, previously convicted under 1611-133, which is 15 years consecutive to any count in the indictment. 54, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, which is 5 years to serve consecutive. Count 64, which is another possession of a firearm by a convicted felon under 1611-133, which is also 15 years to serve consecutive. So Mr. Stillwell's looking at maximum of 2 life sentences plus
85 years.
Plus 85 years, Your Honor.
So as you can see, Hilton did not know the actual maximum sentence for either of these guys at that point when she was entering into plea negotiations with them. Y'all, do y'all understand this? She was, her office, I should say, I don't know if she personally, but her office was negotiating pleas with these guys. And she literally had, I don't want to say no idea, but she didn't know with a reasonable amount of precision how much either of these guys was facing as a maximum penalty. All right. So just let that sink in. What happened in the courtroom is they went live. It was not the current YSL RICO trial. It was severed co-defendants. And Judge Whitaker kicked the cameraman out of the courtroom because he's not supposed to be filming. So there you have it.
The state's recommendation, and I'll just say globally, Your Honor.
Oh, by the way, y'all, what we're playing now, I'll back it up a little bit so you can hear it. What we're playing now is just, this is Hilton, obviously. This is not from today. This is when Hilton and her office was engaged in plea negotiations with Yak and with Shannon and the other guys. Yak and Shannon decided to fight on. Hilton just said that Yak was facing a life plus some years. She literally didn't know how many. She literally said life plus some years. We're going to hear at the end, Whitaker is going to put the number to the sum, and it's a lot, okay? And then Hilton also didn't know how many years Stillwell was facing. So, but that's what we're watching.
85 years.
Plus 85 years, Your Honor. The state's recommendation, and I'll just say globally, Your Honor, was 60 years to serve 40 years in prison, that we would have reduced both of the murders to voluntary manslaughter, Your Honor. And we had given his attorney the option to kind of craft how that 40 years would look, but that was the extent to our negotiations, Your Honor.
And Mr. Stillwell, kind of the same information to you. If the state does not want to reduce charges, you're not entitled to plead to reduce charges. They can say, you got to face these murder charges and we're going to make it a jury trial if you don't agree to what we're offering. Same thing, you can't say, well, I'd like those other charges dismissed if they're not willing to dismiss them in exchange for the negotiated sentence.
So obviously, each of you has the right to continue with the trial. You know, what you're doing, you are all have very capable attorneys representing you who clearly care very passionately about you all personally, as well as presenting your best case. But it's ultimately going to be up to the jury, and you cannot know what any jury is going to do. And they may say, I don't believe a single bit of this beyond a reasonable doubt. Y'all are both walking. They may say, you know what, I buy this, I don't buy that. I'm convicting you of 4 of the 5 or 4 of the 8 charges. You're still then going to face sentencing. They may convict you of everything. And if you are convicted of everything, Mr. Stillwell, you're facing 2 life sentences plus 85 years on top of that.
Okay, so now Judge Whitaker is telling them the real number. Remember, Hilton just said 2 life sentences plus 20 years, and Judge Whitaker corrected her. And when she said, this is for Stillwell, and when Hilton was talking about what Yak is facing, Hilton didn't even know life plus. I mean, this is kind of important, you know, life plus whatever. Hilton said some years. So now you're going to hear Judge Whitaker say how many additional years he's facing.
As opposed to 40 years to serve with parole as a possibility. And Mr. Kendrick, you are facing life plus, I think I added up 115 years.
So Hilton said life plus some years. Judge Whitaker just said, well, I added it up and that sum is 115. Okay. So y'all, this was the people negotiating for the plea deal. People, it's life plus, you're looking at life plus some years. That sum is 115. So anyway, y'all.
Instead of 20 to serve 15. So it's just something to think about. And I mean, it's already past 5 o'clock. So are y'all going to leave the offer open until you have withdrawn the offer before you even put it on the record to?
We communicated this to them last night, but they did not accept it. That we will have withdrawn off.
All right, well, given that the state spent the entire day negotiating Mr. Williams' plea, ultimately unsuccessfully, I don't know if either Mr. Weinstein or Mr. Sharp would have been able to negotiate with you during today.
They would have, no one, we didn't have any communication from.
When you say Oz, are you referring to the TV show or what? Y'all? Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Oz, y'all. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't think I'm cut out for prison life, y'all. I do not think I am cut out for any of this. I'm keeping it real. It's not for me.
And they rejected the offer.
Okay.
I did have communication with Mr. Abate today. I attempted to have communications with the DA last Tuesday morning, but she failed to show up for our meeting.
Y'all, this is
Any
just a
chance y'all might
replay.
leave it open until 9 o'clock tomorrow?
So this was a replay of when they were talking about the maximum amount of time that each guy was facing. Now, for Mr. Kendrick, that would have been reduced with the directed verdicts. So we are not going to get to watch the hearing for the other guys, apparently. I mean, so she shut down the hearing for the other YSL defendants, so we don't get to watch that. This is what Kathy Rasan said. Well, Judge Whitaker made us shut down the camera, saying we don't have a signed Rule 22 for these defendants this hearing. We filed that motion with her clerk on November 25th, but the judge never signed it. So Law and Crime did their thing, but Whitaker, she let that motion, basically, she vetoed it by not signing it. People have said that the reason, so y'all, what I'm referring to is maybe 30 minutes ago or so, maybe a little less, they went live in court. We thought that there was going to be for Shannon and for Yak, but it wasn't. There are other YSL defendants apparently in the same courtroom right now, because it certainly did look like the same courtroom where all of the YSL activity has happened up to this point. But there were other faces in there. We only saw one guy's face, but he was in his jail uniform, and Judge Whitaker did not like that, and she shut it down. She shut it down. So we won't get to see, apparently, we won't get to see today's activity with the other defendants, sadly. Someone said it might have been Tenquarius Mender that we were looking at. Another thing people are talking about here in the chat is y'all, this daggone StreamYard lost volume. So whenever I start to play something, I'm going to have to reset it. But at any rate, apparently there's been some kind of surveillance of one of the jurors. So Doug apparently is aware of surveillance of one of the jurors. So Doug, so what the Knicks said, want to talk about speechless. I found out that Love and the Fulton County, I guess the district attorney, Fulton County district attorney had a potential juror followed by 24-hour surveillance for weeks. Why? One reason is because she didn't believe they truly lived in Fulton County. Guess who foots the bill for all of that? So apparently, if this is to be believed, then it seems like there is some type of credibility to it, because Doug follows up saying that is the only instance of surveillance of which we are aware. And we are only aware because she brought it to the court's attention to try to get that juror off the panel. How much other surveillance was done on jurors of which we are not aware? Can we ever know? Think about that. Or think about it. The state spent weeks surveilling at least one juror. It shocks the conscience. Y'all, it does shock the conscience. Are they technically stalking people? You know, they're the state. They can do that. I would say they are stalking people technically, but legally no, because they are the state, and I imagine they have the power to do that. But it does shock the conscience. It's I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, what can you say? What can you say? This is what I was talking about yesterday when many of y'all were on here when I went on my rant. When I went on my rant yesterday, and I was talking about that we put trust and faith, and we put our lives in the hands of the authorities, and that's why people are so much more incensed when there's wrongdoing among authorities than when there's wrongdoing among street level people, because we don't trust the street level people with our lives. We do trust the authorities with our lives. So when the authorities do what we perceive to be betray us or don't live up to our standards, the hurt is far more because we trusted them. Now, people have been talking about a dirty juror, but make it make sense, because my understanding was the dirty juror would be working for the prosecution. Would you be surveilling your plant? So people have been saying there's a prosecution plant in the jury pool. I this is not it's not even something I had ever considered. So, people brought it up. So if you're saying that the prosecution pool has the prosecution has planted a juror into the pool, into the 12, why would they then surveil the same person that they planted? That's my question. Truth says, I do not trust the authorities with my life. I trust me and me only. So I'm talking about society, though. I'm talking about society. And I also would submit, Truth, that if an authority were to do something wrong to you or a loved one, your level of outrage would be higher than if it were somebody, just a street level person. And the reason why is because even if you don't trust the authority, you know that they're in a position of trust. So even if you don't have that personal trust, you still know that that's their position and that they have a higher standard that they're supposed to live up to. So somebody help me understand how, yes, you definitely keeping your plant clean and safe and scared. So, okay, so Enki, so what you're saying is you have your plant, but once you plant your plant, you are going to keep a close watch on your plant to make sure that they're doing what you want them to do. They're not doing what you don't want them to do. And you want them to know that you're watching them so that they'll stay in line. Do I follow you? I could see it being a consistent narrative. I'm certainly not saying that's my opinion, but I could see it being a consistent narrative that there is a plant, but that plant is not 100% free, and like that plant might be being controlled. It's a consistent narrative. If you want the first day they ask questions, you can see love looking at someone. Are you talking about the jury selection? And the state is not able to just survey jurors because that leads to jury intimidation. So do y'all really think there's something to? So are y'all really putting this together with the idea that there's a plant, that the state has planted at least one juror into the jury pool, and that might be the same juror they're surveilling? Because it could also be, if there's a plant, which again, I'm certainly not asserting there is, but since we're just playing with the idea, if there's a plant, you could also have a plant who might be the person who's telling you who you want to surveil, right? Again, playing with the idea, not making any kind of assertion or claim at all, just playing with it. I could see it being an even more convincing idea that there's a plant. The plant is just one of the guys, just one of the girls, just a juror, just like everybody else. And once they get information, they pass it to whomever it is that will do something with that information. And then that person might have deployed surveillance on somebody based on feedback from the plant. Now, again, I have no reason to say that there is a plant, but since we're talking about it, my response: yes, you keeping your plant clean and safe and scared. Okay, that is interesting, y'all. The judge may have had surveillance watching them because it was brought to the court's attention, not the prosecution attention. So the court stepped in and had them surveilled. That's also possible. That's also possible. The plant is up against two really headstrong guys. So are y'all saying that you think that if there's a plant, that plant, obviously, if the DA plants somebody, the purpose of that person would be to help the DA win the case. Okay, so if there is a plant, it would be so the DA can win. Win would mean conviction, right? So once it's gone to the jury, win would mean the plant would help convict. What have we seen as it relates to the jury questions? Because all we have from the jury as of right now is we have juror 56 who spoke in court. We have a couple of requests to get off the jury. And then we have the jury questions that we saw on Wednesday and then twice yesterday. And we have this information about somebody being surveilled. So what is your entire theory about what's really going on here? I personally believe that whenever the judge doesn't want filming in the court, they don't want the public to see the clown show. Well, Ray, many people just said that the prisoners are in their blue prison outfits, their prison uniforms, and that the judge doesn't want them filmed that way because that could taint the potential juries. Meaning they don't have a jury yet, but whoever's going to be on the jury, should they have seen these people in their prison outfits, that could taint their opinion of that person. Kind of like how when Dennis described Diamante Kendrick as just getting out of prison. As sad as this is, I think this was all good to see. Hold up. As sad as this is, I think this was all good to see. So some people can stop thinking people must be guilty simply because charges. Okay. Yeah, I think you're right about that. I mean, I keep coming back to reasonable doubt. Remember, y'all, guilty and not guilty is a legal determination, whereas whether you did it or not is not even necessarily the question. In trial, the question is not did you or didn't you do the thing? Did the defendant do it or didn't the defendant do it? The question could very well be phrased as, is there reasonable doubt that the defendant did it? That is the question. If there is reasonable doubt, they're not guilty. Isn't that kind of crazy? Do y'all find that just wild as I do? Do y'all find it just as wild as I do that if there's reasonable doubt that the defendant did it, then the defendant is not guilty? Because guilty is a legal determination. Isn't that kind of wild? We want to put guilty with did they do it? But legally, guilty is beyond a reasonable doubt. Not guilty is not that they didn't do it. Not guilty is there is a reasonable doubt as to whether they did it. Ashley Merchant can get payment info for such surveillance to paid investigators, or can you get the records through FOIA? Probably you could get it through FOIA. I would imagine you could. The judge been dirty. The investigators been dirty. No way they aren't playing with the jury. So you consider Whitaker dirty? We've been called a mole on the jury. Dang, y'all are way more suspicious than I am. I'm inherently somewhat suspicious, but y'all are way past me. Meaning y'all are having ideas pop in your mind that just literally never even occurred to me. So I'm not saying I disagree with you. These are things that my mind just wasn't even considering. So it's, I'm having now to kind of start thinking about this stuff. I just wasn't even thinking about. People have mentioned it and I've seen it come across the screen, but my mind just never assimilated that there might be a mole in the jury. I just always say, nah, that's not the case. Now y'all are like making me face the fact that that's at least possible. You know what I'm saying? I still don't subscribe to it as my thought, But, you know, before jump on conspiracy, ask yourself the end game. Can you honestly say this case would be worth that level of corruption? I would say, LTK, you and I, we've expressed, I think, thought processes that have been somewhat similar in the past. And I would say my reason to doubt the mole is because how much can one person do? They can give information about what the jury is saying. I mean, I guess you could say if you have a mole that's really ready to just hang him or herself out there, they could hang the jury and just assure that you're not going to get a not guilty. That would be truly diabolical, though. Like that would be diabolical. That if you have a mole who's just giving you information, I guess that person, but it's hard to, if you have a mole, it's hard to say that they're going to vote against you, though. So I guess if y'all are saying there's a mole, anybody who says there's a mole, y'all, I got to stand up. I got to stand up. It's time for standing up to happen. Oh, man, I got to plug this thing in. Anybody who's saying there's a mole, if you truly are going to stand by this mole comment, then you also have to, in my opinion, you have no other option but to say there will be either a guilty verdict or a hung jury verdict on the two murders. I'm going to say it again. Well, hung jury is not a verdict, but y'all know what I mean. If you are strongly advocating the mole theory, I don't see any other option but that you must conclude this. On the two murders, you will either get guilty or hung, but you won't get not guilty, because there's no way that I'm going to put a mole in a jury and they're going to vote not guilty on a murder, period. So I want y'all, the mole theoreticians, I want y'all to holler at me about that. I want y'all to holler at me about what I just said. If you are, oh y'all, we got a seal again. We got a seal again, but we don't have any action. But we do have a seal again, so it's the same courtroom. How are they using the same courtroom for two different simultaneous judicial proceedings? Like, what is going on here? Y'all, anybody who's, I've already said it, I'm gonna say it one more time. Anybody strongly theorizing a mole must say that the mole will not vote not guilty, or said another way, the mole can only vote guilty for the murder charge. Do y'all disagree with me on that? Right or wrong? The mole, if there should be one, if there should be a mole, the mole can only vote guilty for the murder charge. Now, the RICO and all that stuff, I'm not going to get into that. But if you have a mole who you put in there and you have a murder charge or two in this case, there's no way that a paid or affiliated person to the DA is going to vote not guilty on a murder charge. So that's a good test for the mole theory. Or does anybody disagree with me? Dang, y'all. We got action in the court. Fox just went off. But Law and Crime is still on. Let me see if Kathy Rasana said anything. So I'm not convinced by the mole theory, y'all. That would be, if that were found out to be true, we would need real prison time for people. All of them, anybody involved, everybody involved. And I'm just mentally not ready to go there yet. the mole will vote. The mole could only vote guilty on the murder charges. Now, the other stuff, they might have some leeway if they were, trying to seem this and not let on to that. But the mole couldn't vote not guilty on a murder. They couldn't do it if they're working for the state. It's just unconscionable that they would do that. So I'm not there with the mole thing. What'd you say? I've said this before here in chat yesterday. What was that, Sadie? I'm trying to go back. The mole will vote guilty. Okay, so now though, we're too early, in my opinion, in this whole thing for a hung jury. We are 15 hours into deliberation. So if the jury's going to be hung, if the jury is going to be hung, wouldn't you also agree that you can't have a hung jury in just 2 business days of 8 hours, roughly 2 full business days of deliberation on a year-long trial? You're going to be hung. It's too soon. I would think, unless you have like true like knockdown, drag out type of fights happening there, like, insults, people talking about each other's mama, that kind of stuff, then maybe you could say, look, we're never going to see eye to eye. But if you're just trying to work it through, you're at 15 hours. You can't be a hung jury just yet. So if we're going to see a hung jury on important charges like murder, probably even RICO, but definitely murder, it's too soon. They have to keep working on it. Yeah, I'm just bringing up hung jury, Bitter Lily, because some people are not recommending. Some people are saying they think there's a mole. I'm not there with my thought process, because the level of risk is so high. I mean, that would almost be on a level of like treason, in my opinion. Like, it wouldn't be treason, but it would be like in that kind of category. That would be like in the category of having betrayed the public, not just the public trust, but like the very foundation and idea of what the country is. It would be on like in that category to me, if you were to put a mole to sway inside of a jury as a state actor to sway the jury's decision. You're in the realm of like, that's worse than stealing. It's worse than embezzling. You're literally chipping away at the foundations of civilized society at that point. Like, I just think that the risk is too high. I think the risk is too high. So that's me. Maybe y'all would disagree with me. Maybe I'm being too dramatic, but that's really how I see it. You would be, whatever civilization is, you're like finding the foundation and you're trying to take a piece out of it if you're doing that. And that would be very dangerous. Demoyo, thank you. State may have a poison ivy plant, but Jury 56 is our medicine. FYI, Jury 56 just wanted to listen to good music yesterday. He was bored. Yeah, I saw people say that, like, they might have just put the music on the jam a little bit. You never know. It's a good theory. It would be so tight if that actually comes back true. It would be so excellent. Thank you for the super. That would be so tight if it comes back true. But the problem, Demoyo, is if you have a person who's working for the state, they can stop a not guilty verdict on their own, because it has to be unanimous. So they can single-handedly, they can't cause a guilty verdict single-handedly, but they can stop a not guilty verdict single-handedly. And that is one of the scariest thoughts that has entered my mind about this trial. So maybe I'm just a little bit unwilling to go there mentally. Hopefully y'all also agree or if you don't agree, you understand why I think that that would be such a monumentally corrupt thing to do, way past anything we've seen, way past the ex parte meeting, way past any kind of showing of evidence or mentioning people's criminal history. That would be way past anything we've seen in this trial, in my opinion, anyway. And I'm not there with it. A mole doesn't have to swing the jury; they can just be for information, and it doesn't have to be as serious as impacting the vote. You are going farther than you even need to go. That's not true. That is not true. That is not true because, see, the mole has to be a juror. They have to vote, not your mama. They have to vote. They have to take a stance. They can't, by default, no juror can be neutral. So a mole could not be just for information. Why? Because they have to say guilty or not guilty. Now, if you had an electronic listening device in the juror's deliberation room and you could listen in, or if you somehow, oh, hold up, y'all got me on a rant. All right, they're coming into court. Can y'all hear? Y'all probably can't hear. Bear with me. I'm going to reset, y'all. Don't go anywhere. Y'all cannot. Can you hear this, court, or no? Somebody let me know quickly. Can you hear, court? Yes or no? Let me know quickly. If not, I'm going to have to refresh my browser. All right. You should be able to hear it now. Can you hear? There is a verdict. Y'all can hear, right?
All right, thank you very much.
Okay.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I understand that you all have reached a verdict. Mr. Foreperson, is that correct? All right, and was it unanimous? Yes. All right, and this verdict has been filled in and signed and dated by you, correct? Oh, on for each defendant. All right, and I noticed that Mr. Kendrick's verdict form is dated December 2nd. Is that because that's when you all reached the verdict with regard to him? Okay. And then Mr. Stillwell's is dated today. Okay. All right, Mr. Kendrick. You have been found not guilty on all charges.
Told y'all. Told you.
Mr. Stillwell, can you please stand? You have been found guilty on count 64, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, and not guilty on every other charge.
I knew it. I freaking told y'all today. I told y'all today. What did I tell y'all?
So, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you are officially released from further service, and I cannot express the degree of thanks that Fulton County owes you for your service. Given the length of this trial, you have paid close attention this entire time, and I appreciate your devotion, as I'm sure do the parties in this case. You are welcome to stay for the sentencing, or you can return to the jury room. I would like to speak with you in just a moment in the jury room. If you all do want to stay, you're welcome to stay. Is there any objection to the form or the legality of this verdict?
Y'all, this is a win for them,
Any from the
y'all.
defense?
State lost. The state
All right.
lost, yes.
All right, is there any reason that we can't go ahead and sentence? You may.
Y'all, I'm not trying to make this about me, so forgive me saying I knew it. It's not about me, but it's not about me, y'all. It's about them. The jury got it right, y'all. There was reasonable doubt. There was reasonable doubt. So congratulations to them. I think this means there's no mole. Yeah, forgive me again for going back to the mole conversation. The jury got it right. They got it right. They got it right. These guys were just fat. I mean, but y'all, let me also, because I've been here, I've been with y'all. We do have to, let's be respectful and remember that there are victims. There are two guys who are not with us any longer. Their families are probably going to be suffering right now. So I just want to acknowledge them. I want to acknowledge the deceased. I want to acknowledge their families. I want to acknowledge the pain that they're probably feeling, the lack of closure, the lack of answers, the lack of, y'all know, right? So we have to be remembering. We have to be in remembrance of them as well. We have to be in remembrance of them. Okay. They don't get to speak now. They might be there. They're probably in the court.
Are we going to go ahead with sentencing? Is the state, I know the state had filed a recidivist notice.
Yes, Your Honor.
Do y'all intend to stand on that?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. So the recidivist is A and C recidivist. That means that I have no discretion but to sentence to the maximum on that count. And the sentence possibility is 5 to 10. I must sentence to 10 years. However, I can probate any part of that sentence at my discretion. And so the court sentence on count 64 for Mr. Stillwell is going to be 10 years to serve 2 with credit for time served, the balance served on probation.
He's going home. She just sent Stillwell home, y'all.
All right, I am going to recess.
She just sent Stillwell home, y'all.
I'm going to recess for a moment, and we will reconvene on the status conference in a few minutes.
This was a 100%, this was a 95% kick in the butt for the state. They got that one charge, that one gun charge, which we said this morning was going to be kind of hard to beat. And then she just sentenced him to 2 years.
You have 30 days to file a motion for new trial if you choose to do that. Your attorneys will represent you on that unless they are excused from that representation by me. You also have 30 days from either this date or the date the motion for new trial is ruled upon to file a direct appeal if that's something you would like to do. And given that this is a felony conviction, you would have 4 years from the date that those direct appeals are finished to file a habeas corpus petition challenging anything about the constitutionality of this conviction and sentence. All right.
All right, y'all, let's just take a moment to process this. This was a loss for the state. The only thing that could have possibly been beyond a reasonable doubt was that gun, and that's what they found, which I said it this morning. I didn't see a reasonable doubt for the gun. Neither did the jury. And Whitaker just twisted the dagger, y'all. Everybody who doubted Whitaker, everybody who said she's corrupt, blah, 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 She just sentenced my man to 2 years. He's already served those 2 years. So if I'm not mistaken, he's going home today. All right. So where's corrupt Whitaker now, who could have sentenced him to 10 years and sent him back to prison? I think my man is going home right now. Am I right or am I tripping? Am I tripping? So Shannon's going home. He is under probation. He's going to have to stay clean. He has a challenge ahead of him. Yak is totally exonerated. Yak is 100% totally exonerated. She gave him the directed verdicts first, which was a long shot. Doug got that for him. Then the jury found him totally not guilty. He's exonerated. This is taking money. This is taking time. This is taking blood, sweat, tears. He got stabbed. It's taken a lot out of him. But what it didn't take from him was, or what it didn't do to him, is it didn't make him, didn't give him additional felonies. It didn't put him under probation again. So after all of that suffering, we could say for Yak, at least he is free of this now, in as much as he could possibly be free in this moment. Right? He's free of this as much as he could be free. You know, he's as free as he could be. Shannon, he's probably as free as he could be too, because he was facing 2 bodies, y'all. Shannon, 2 bodies. So, y'all, we just witnessed history. I thank everybody for being here and doing this with me. And this is a win. This is a win. Yeah, not guilty, Lex, the full steezy. Not guilty. Yes, the verdict is in. I'll play it back one more time, y'all. Let's run that back real quick. Let's run that back real quick. It's worth watching again.
I know the state had filed a recidivist notice.
Hold on.
Yes, Your Honor.
Do y'all intend to stand on that?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right.
That wasn't it. Anybody who's just popping in, you're about to see the verdicts. I'm not gonna do spoiler alert. No, I'm not gonna do spoilers.
All right, good morning, everybody. We have a verdict. We have 2 verdicts. And I do not want there to be any kind of disruption or disturbance in court, regardless of what this verdict is. So can we get the jury out, please?
Y'all, we are watching the culmination of over 2 years, going, well, 2.5 years of these men's lives. We're rewatching it. This just happened moments ago.
All right, thank you very much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I understand that you all have reached a verdict. Mr. Foreperson, is that correct? All right, and was it unanimous? Yes. All right, and this verdict has been filled in and signed and dated by you, correct? Or for each defendant? All right, and I noticed that Mr. Kendrick's verdict form is dated December 2nd. Is that because that's when you all reached the verdict with regard to him? Okay. And then Mr. Stillwell's is dated today. Okay. All right.
By the way, that was also something that I was right about. Other people we were right about. We were right about.
You have been found not guilty on all charges. Mr. Stillwell, can you please stand? You have been found guilty on count 64, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, and not guilty on every other charge.
There you have it, people. That's a rewatch. That's a rewatch.
So, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you are officially released from further service, and I cannot express the degree of thanks that Fulton County owes you for your service. Given the length of this trial, you have paid close attention this entire time, and I appreciate your devotion, as I'm sure do the parties in this case. You are welcome to stay for the sentencing, or you can return to the jury room. I would like to speak with you in just a moment in the jury room. If you all do want to stay, you're welcome to stay. Is there any objection to the form or the legality of this verdict?
No.
Any from the defense? All right. All right. Is there any reason that we can't go ahead and sentence?
I do wonder, y'all, if the sentencing, if either of them had been found guilty of the murder, if the sentencing would have happened at a later date. That was a question that I had. Of course, we will never know the answer to that. But I imagine that the victims' families were probably there today. So, you know, I imagine that they were close by, and whenever a verdict was going to happen, they were going to be notified. So,
You may.
so y'all, we just looked at the time they were facing. 2 years, no, excuse me, one life sentence plus 110 years. That would have been reduced due to the directed verdicts. And Shannon was facing 2 life sentences plus 85 years. And out of all of those life sentences and all of those years, we saw a total sentence of 10 years, with 2 to be served in prison or incarcerated, which the 2 have already been served, more than that, and 8 years on probation. So this whole trial resulted in a 10-year sentence with 2 years. Y'all got to give it up for Paige Whitaker, y'all. For Paige Reese. We got to put the Reese on her name now. I'm jive fanboying a little bit, but y'all got to give me this moment, because I defended Paige Reese Whitaker for months and months and months on this channel. I defended her. I called her fair, and not that I didn't take any heat for it. We just had disagreements, so nobody really came at me for it. So I'm not gonna over exaggerate. But y'all, y'all see in this sentence and y'all know what? Y'all wanna know what's kind of y'all know who's really punching air right now? Monk Toon, y'all. Because Monk Toon got it worse than Shannon. Monk Toon got a worse result than Shannon. But Monk Toon got pleaded guilty and Shannon didn't. So there's a difference there.
All right. So are we going to go ahead with sentencing? Is the state, I know the state had filed a recidivist notice.
Yes, Your Honor.
Do y'all intend to stand on that?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. So the recidivist is A and C recidivist. That means that I have no discretion but to sentence to the maximum on that count. And the sentence possibility is 5 to 10. I must sentence to 10 years. However, I can probate any part of that sentence at my discretion. And so the court sentence on count 64 for Mr. Stillwell is going to be 10 years to serve 2, with credit for time served, the balance served on probation.
I'm about to give y'all another take. First, let me acknowledge Cammie Phillips. Thank you. What do I think they will do with Miles Farley about the murder charge now? I'm looking into that for Georgia, if they can introduce the not guilty of this trial into evidence. I doubt it, so they'll probably just go forward. They might even drop it, frankly, because nobody. I mean, Miles wasn't even in the car with Shannon. So I wouldn't be surprised if they just dropped that murder charge instead of, taking another L. But we'll have to see. I'm about to research real quick to see if the not guilty from this trial can be entered as evidence in the other trial. I doubt it, but we'll see. Looks like we got another super from Momac Mua. Thank you so much. I think we all knew this was going to be the outcome that was right. What happens now because they were in jail for the murders? What do you mean by that? They're out. What happens now because they were in jail for the murders? So they're out. The sad part, y'all, is that there are 2 guys who are dead. And this was it. So you do still have people who are going to be on trial for Donovan Thomas. You do still have people who are going to be on trial for Shamel Drinks. That was what the previous super was about from Cammie Phillips. She asked about Miles Farley. You have Demekion Garlington. And you also have, Nichols pleaded out. So I think they null pros the murder charge or something. So he's off of that. So you still do have a couple of guys who are facing the murder charge for Drinks. And you had Shannon, Yak, Duop, and Nard. So I don't know if Duop and Nard are going on trial for Donovan Thomas. But these guys are going home. Both of these guys they're free. They're free men. They're free men today. Ms. Flynn, thank you. Yes, they're going home. They are going home. These guys are now free. So, but I wanted to give y'all a take. I want to be the first one to say this. So that if this turns out to be a thing, y'all heard it here first. I have not heard anybody else say this. The reason, the most identifiable reason why Shannon just got that favorable sentence, 2 years, time served basically with 8 on probation, is because I'm going to submit is because his attorney made that argument that I mentioned today. He made that argument to Judge Whitaker, like, Judge, would you please make some law that will allow my felon client, my convicted felon client, to have a gun? Because as you can see, his life has constantly been in danger. And Judge Whitaker basically was like, I can't do that. But that laid the groundwork for today's sentence being a lot lighter than it might otherwise have been, because Max made her confront, and this whole trial did, she was obviously, she would have known this through the trial, but Max made her confront and make a decision on, will you carve out a special place for a convicted felon who people are trying to shoot every day? Can he protect himself, please? And she's like, I can't do that. But when she could ameliorate the penalty, that's what she chose to do. So I can't say they're definitely connected, but I would say I wouldn't be surprised if Max making her make that decision earlier and her saying, well, I can't really make that decision, if that didn't maybe come back and influence this penalty here. So that is going to be my take on this lenient penalty. Slim Life, thank you so much. Love you all as well. So let's continue to watch, y'all.
All right, I am going to recess.
Oh, that was it.
Wow. I'm going to recess for a moment.
I just want to see that little piece again, the sentence.
All right, so are we going to go ahead with sentencing? Is the state, I know the state had filed a recidivist notice.
Yes, Your Honor.
Do y'all intend to stand on that?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. So the recidivist is A and C recidivist. That means that I have no discretion but to sentence to the maximum on that count. And the sentence possibility is 5 to 10. I must sentence to 10 years. However, I can probate any part of that sentence at my discretion. And so the court sentence on count 64 for Mr. Stillwell is going to be 10 years to serve 2, with credit for time served, the balance served on probation. All right, I am going to recess.
She was done with this, y'all. She was just over this. Judge Whitaker was just over it. She was just, that was a slap to the state. Y'all better believe it. Okay? I'm not saying she meant for it to be a slap to the state, but whether she meant it that way or not, it absolutely was. Y'all, let's get some reactions from the people. Look at Hilton's face. Y'all, Hilton, she did the whole song and dance in that closing. She did the whole song and the whole dance in that closing. And it didn't work. It didn't work. Hilton looks the best she ever looked. No evidence. I love Paige. I believe because of how bad the jail is there. Not sure what that's talking about. I'm over here in tears as if I know them. Y'all, this is a good time to shed a tear or two. This is, if there's ever a time, you know, where to shed a tear of happiness, this would be a good one. Paige did her big one. Yes. Paige did it, y'all. Because again, Paige could have ruined the day by saying, I have to sentence you to 10 years. So, you know, we'll see you when you get out, buddy. She could have done that. And that would have been a bittersweet pill to swallow, that he got off of the murder charges, but he about to go serve another, 5, 6, whatever years it would be. That would have been bitter. That would have been a bittersweet pill to swallow. But Paige was like, nah, not today. Not today. She knew how grimy and slimy the state was. I think everybody who had the mole, I think this is a definitive repudiation of the mole narrative, y'all. Because there's no way that there was a mole in that jury, and unless the mole was like, yo, not guilty. You know what I'm saying? That was if there was a mole, it was the worst mole ever. If it was a mole that was like, not guilty. I already got my money, not guilty. So I think we're gonna have to repudiate the mole narrative. Again, not taking shots at anybody. We had a lot of narratives, a lot of ideas, a lot of thoughts. We all had our individual thoughts. I think, so it's not, so we've all been right some, we've all been wrong some. So let's, definitely not coming at anybody. But I think that the mole narrative is dead at this point. Thank you for my intelligence. I thank you for thanking me for that. And I thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Wanted to see Love's face. Yeah, that would have been the icing on the cake, but we kind of already know what it looked like. I mean, sad, basically. The judge just sent a message to the DA not to waste everybody's time in the future. That's why I think that Miles Farley might get that murder charge dropped, because what did he do? They probably just put him with the charge on him to try to get information and cooperation on Shannon or whoever else might have been the shooter. They didn't even charge Boyer, and he was there, according to them. So I think that'll probably get dropped. And you know what? I would petition the judge. Like, Judge, would you please dismiss this charge now? You've looked at the evidence. There is no juror who could reasonably find that my client did this crime. You've looked at the evidence. There is no way for the state to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Miles Farley killed Drinks. So can we just get rid of this, please? Can we just dismiss this? I think they have a reason at this point to just ask Whitaker. If I'm not mistaken, she's the one who's going to be presiding over that. Could you just dismiss this, please? So Yeah, I agree. Shannon, I think a lot is going to be said about whether these guys stay in Atlanta or not. Sadly, y'all, if they stay in Atlanta, their future looks brighter the further away from Atlanta they get. And the less times they go back to Atlanta, the brighter their future looks. The further away they get and the longer they stay away, the better their future looks. Got a few more supers. Mary Kay Rogers, thank you. Appreciate it. Jay Marie, what we watching next? Anybody who wants to make a suggestion? Karen Reed trial is coming up. Karen Reed trial is coming up. That's going to be in January. I'm going to be watching that. I'm thinking about putting some stuff together though, y'all, for a daily show in the mornings. See how many of y'all want to ride with me. The Phenomenal Show, thank you. Page is up for consideration for the Georgia Supreme Court, right? I don't know if that's something like a rumor. I think that came from the father on the Lawyer You Know channel. I first heard it from him. I don't know if it's consideration. He did mention that. So I don't know if she was in consideration at one point. She didn't make it, or if her name's floating around. But yeah, a lot of people have been saying that. I heard it from him first, but I imagine he has his sources or he has a way of knowing about that. I will say this helps. I will say this trial helps. She came in. She got everything together. She got some plea deals to whittle this trial down. She got this trial wrapped up from when they had the first witness come in, which was Woody, which I think was early August. So August to September to October, November. She wrapped it up in 4 months from the first witness. So she had taken over in July. So 5 months from when she took over, 4 months from the first witness, almost to the day. I think Woody might have gone on to the stand like August 2nd or 3rd, something like that. So she wrapped this whole trial up in 5 months, 4 months, 1 month of getting a bunch of background stuff, 4 months from when she got that first witness, Woody, back on the stand and got this whole thing wrapped up in 4 months. And it looked like this was going to be going till March of next year. So give credit where credit is due. I definitely think this helps. Now let's get, the fight is not over because Thug still's got to fight for his property. Yeah, Max had a lot of, I don't know that I would want to make a living like this, y'all. It's a special group of people. I mean, could I go through this once in my life? Probably. But would I want to like finish this up, feel great for Shannon, shake his hand, maybe have some dinner with him and his family, try to help get him oriented in society, and then move on to the next guy who I'm about to go to bat for? It's not me. I could probably do it once. I could probably do it one time or once every so often, once every so many years. I couldn't live like this, though. It's just too much on the line, y'all. I mean, not like when you're like Max. I mean, you can tell Max is just, he put it all out there. Doug as well. I just couldn't do it. Again, that's not slight to them, because we need people like them out there, and they're daggone good at what they do. But to me, it would just be too much of an emotional toll. It would be too much of an emotional toll. The mole was like, the state paid me $10K to throw this food. Yeah, if there was a mole, y'all, it's almost like one of those movies where the double crosser double crossed, you know, like you thought that the spy was really a spy for the other side. So you were like, yeah, did you know we have a mole in there? But the mole was really the mole for the other side who was spying on you, and you didn't know it the whole time. Now there's guys who play guilty stuff. The jury, y'all, there's gonna be, sadly, y'all, please do hit the like button Do hit the like button if you're in here, y'all. This is gonna be our last YSL trial stream for this group of defendants. We'll have to see what happens with the next group, if they're gonna televise it or stream it or what, certainly interested. I'm particularly interested to know what's going to happen with Demekion Garlington, but we will have to see. Do you think that the state will speak to the press? I think they deserve it. I think that the residents of Fulton County deserve some kind of accounting, some kind of reckoning for this mess. 100%. Definitely corruption, though, 100% to the core DA's office and jails. God knows what the hoods are like. I hope they don't. Where do their families live? What kind of money do they have? I hope they don't even. Man, you couldn't find me close to a hood. I'm out of Atlanta, y'all. These two guys were just on trial for killing 2 people. And those people have people out there on the streets. And particularly Shannon, all of his 9 lives. He just used up 2 more of his 9. Shannon's 9 lives, he's getting dangerously close to 0 left. I mean, he needs to get out of Atlanta. Stat. Homeboy need to go and be a relaxed, chill dad somewhere and stay away from major cities. You know what I'm saying? I pray for the whole family, but I'm going through the same thing with my son, and I know is innocent, but it's a lot. Ooh, I'm sorry to hear that. I am sorry to hear that. Yeah, I think their prices just went up. I said that previously too. I'm almost certain, and y'all, I don't pocket watch, and so take that for what it's worth. I mean, I do pocket watch sometimes, but I'm not trying to do that right now. But I'm almost certain these guys did not get paid commiserate with the effort and the emotion that they put into this. That's not a slight toward Shannon or Yak, and it's definitely not a slight toward them. What I'm saying is, I imagine they put in way more attention, effort, and emotion than the monetary compensation that they received. Okay. And though their prices are going up, it's as a result of, Weinstein was advocating for his client on TikTok daily, practically, so they deserve any and every pay increase that they may be able to charge. Things were so dirty with the state that it was hard to think there were limits to their behaviors, but I concede with dignity when it's called for. Well, y'all, Judge Whitaker, she just showed us that the one thing that I said about her was she wanted this trial to either go to a jury verdict. At some point, she wanted plea deals. I hadn't originally said that, but she had already said that. She wanted this trial to go to a jury verdict. That's what she wanted. She didn't want a mistrial. She definitely did not want a mistrial without prejudice. And she didn't want a mistrial with prejudice either. And she resisted it. And people were upset at her about that. And I think rightfully so on some level. But we also have to understand a mistrial with prejudice is a very high standard. And she had the right as a judge to keep that standard very high. And she was not burdened by all of the Glanville era shenanigans, which a lot of people who were looking at her and her decisions, they were including the shenanigans in their calculations that had happened during Glanville. Judge Whitaker didn't have to take that stuff into account. And she frankly said she's not going to. So people were upset about that. And again, I get it. But she decided, unless it's something monumental, I'm not giving a mistrial with or without prejudice. But we did see, if you go back and you look at her handling of things, which when we did our marathon a couple of weekends ago, we saw so many examples of Judge Whitaker going in on DA Love. There were more than just a few. We also saw Whitaker boot Detective Dennis and the evidence out of the trial and say you can't put anybody on the witness list who's not, you can't put anybody new on the witness list to cover in or fill in for him. And so they had the DA's office had to use somebody already on the witness list to try to testify to the same types of things that Dennis testified to. And it was a terrible catastrophe because the lady didn't know what she was talking about. It wasn't her fault. She wasn't supposed to be talking about that. But Judge Whitaker had gotten rid of Dennis. You know, so yeah, she deserves some consternation, but when you look at the job she had to do, when you look at all of the different factors, when you look at, you know, her coming in and filling in and getting up to speed and blah, 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 the lady did a masterful job. And if you were to question, is she in the pocket of the state? All you have to look at is the sentencing she just gave to Shannon Stillwell. She could have given that man anything up to 10 years in prison. And she gave him, I'll go home, sir. She gave him, have a great life, sir. Stay out of trouble, sir. And she even made it clear she had to give him 10 years. She said, I have to give you 10, which she has to due to the law. So she even made it clear, she kind of insinuated, this isn't even necessarily what I would give you, but I have to do this. But I'm gonna do it in a way that you could go home today, sir. Oh, I forgot. Oh, snap. Big. Oh, thank you so much, Big, for the three spot. It's been a while since I seen you here. Dang, y'all. Y'all think okay. We haven't seen Thug. Has anybody seen Thug speak to the people since he's been out? He's been out for over a month. Has Thug addressed his fans in any way? Like, you know, talking to the camera, I'm saying. I don't think Thug has he made any kind of statement to the people? Nah, Thug hasn't. Now, again, not a criticism, because, you know, sometimes people hear you say, they just hear you catch a clip and it's like, I'm not criticizing it. The only reason I ask is because I was gonna ask originally, what's the chances one of these guys is on live tonight or something, you know, talking to the people or something. And then I just started thinking, well, we haven't heard from anybody. Thug's the only one who's free, but we haven't heard from him. So that was where that thought came from. But what's the chances one of these guys? Thug's been on TikTok? Oh, okay. Oh, he was on live with T.I. Did he speak? Oh, they did a short clip. Okay, cool. What's the chance? Thank you for the 3 spot, Big Skid. Is it Skis or Skiz? It's got to be Skiz. It's 1 E. Let me see. I didn't know if it was a statement, but they showed him speaking on T.I. on Zoom. Okay, got you. Yeah, that wasn't really what I was talking about. I mean, you know, like something like, hey, y'all, you know, I'm out here moving around. Y'all know new music coming soon. Y'all check for the blah, blah. You know, whatever you would expect an artist to say. He said, yo, that is kind of funny that there is that whole Kayla Bumpus angle that I totally wasn't thinking about. That is funny, y'all. That is funny. All right, so what kind of stream party? What kind of stream party will we be looking at? What will we be looking to do? I kind of feel like this is the stream party. Y'all make some suggestions. Stream party. Haven't seen anything from Thug other than the short clip. Y'all, if there's one person who got it the worst of all, it's Monk Tonk. Y'all know Monk Tonk is in prison right now serving a 5-year sentence. Now, to make it not as bad as we would normally feel for Monk Tonk, He did plead guilty to RICO and to the gun charge. So the difference between Montonk and Shannon and Yak is they didn't plead guilty. They took it to trial. Montonk could have taken his to trial too, but he didn't. He did a plea deal. And then he did not abide by the terms of the deal, and he got some of his probation revoked. So it's not a one-to-one comparison because these guys did not take a plea deal. These guys put their full fate in the hands of the jury. Montonk did not do that. He took a safer route, I would say, by taking a plea deal. So it's not a one-to-one comparison. But with that said, it does feel like Montonk got the short end of the stick. No, Montonk can't appeal. Well, yes, he can appeal. He can appeal his revocation, I imagine. But he got 5 years. I don't see him getting out. He clearly did do the crime, if you will, or violate the agreement. I mean, that's clear. He clearly did that. So we all watched it. Even at the time, I made a video asking, is Montonk crashing out? Like, this dude he's facing 35 years in prison and he looked like he's crashing. I mean, it was clear at the time that he was doing it. Now, can he appeal for ineffective assistance of counsel? Yeah, I think he might have a case there, but it's still going to take him some time before he get out. He can appeal. He waives his rights when he pled. I think he can probably appeal the revocation, though. He can't appeal his plea deal. What I take that to be is can he appeal Judge Whitaker's revoking of his 5 years or whatever? And I think he can. Them guys getting back home, cooked meal from grandma's. Yep. You already know, SB. I imagine Miss Betty is there right now, probably giving them a big hug and kiss and just overwhelmed with joy that her baby's coming home. It warms the heart. But again, it does bear repeating that there are people who lost loved ones who their loved ones were not going to come back regardless, but they probably feel a void and another sense of loss too. So I do want to hear from the jury as well. I still have court here on my other computer. I don't see that there is any. Miss Sylvia would be one of the first people to get a jury interview, I would think. She's been there every day. Let's see what Miss Sylvia, if she is grabbing any of those jurors. Somebody said that what the heck? Oh, snap. I'm checking on Miss Sylvia, but her stream doesn't seem to be up, because I would imagine she might have been able to grab one of the jurors since she's always there in court. I don't see any kind of press conference or anything. Of course, we want to hear from the jurors. No, they didn't give victim impact statements because they can't. How are they going to give a victim impact statement to the guy who was just found not guilty of doing the crime? That's why I keep bringing up remembrance of the families and of the fallen. You know what I'm saying? Because they're probably hurting right now, even if they didn't really think deep down inside these guys did it, or if they were unsure, they would be kind of left out in the wilderness right now, and I don't want to speak for them, but I imagine that it might feel that way. But they can't give a victim impact statement because though they are victims or their family members were victims, and though they are impacted, you can't just go to some random guy who's not guilty of doing it and start talking about how you feel about what happened. They live now. Where? Let me see. I have the cord up still. I still have the cord up. So where? Who's live? If you tell me, I will find it. This is the Law and Crime stream. There are people in court. Okay, here we go.
His fortitude and Tasha's fortitude and their unwillingness to give up at any moment is what carried us to this day.
This DA's office used his song, his rap.
Oh my God.
To trial against him, and Diamante took it to trial and showed
Okay,
the
hold on.
DA's office what they can do with that.
All right, y'all. I'm going around the corner to get the jurors, y'all. Sorry, I had to.
This is Miss Sylvia's
Sorry,
stream.
excuse me. Sorry.
I know.
All right,
So-
y'all. Y'all, I'm gonna go get the jurors. Hold on, y'all. I just heard they just walked out the door on the other side.
This is weird because on a
No, y'all. I know who
live,
they are.
they're not showing this press conference.
Hold on, y'all. Hold on.
I don't know where that
I
stream
hope I'm
is.
not too late. Hope I'm not too late to get them. Y'all. Hold on, y'all. Hold on. Because I got to get them.
That press
Hold on.
conference, y'all, that she was just at, it's not being streamed anywhere.
Hold on, y'all. Hold on.
So this is Miss Sylvia. They're trying to keep it.
Hold on, y'all. I hope they didn't walk out. They just texted me and told me the juror's walking out now.
Yo, Miss
Hold
Sylvia, running. Get it, Miss
Hold
Sylvia. Get your steps in.
Let's see. Hold on, y'all.
Judah, I'm not a street guy. Don't have that in my background. And last night I asked my daughter, my 11-year-old daughter, I said, whenever you start liking boys, would you please?
Hey, how you doing? Good. I'm good. Hold on, y'all. Let's see.
I said to my daughter, would you please don't date bad guys, don't
Hold on.
date criminals, please. Like for me. She's like, no, of course not. I'm like,
Let's see.
please. Please.
There's nobody on this side. Hold on.
I'm missing the infamous Sylvia Live. This is the
Jefferson.
Live.
No, I'm trying to catch the jurors. They're coming out over here.
Yeah, but they want the presser over there.
Oh, okay.
Yo, does she have to go back? That would be wild.
All right, y'all. Let's go. Let's see.
So they're gonna do a press conference. It looks like. It looks like the jurors are gonna just talk to everybody.
Let's see. I'm gonna
That's
stand
good.
right out here and wait on them. Hey, did the jurors come out yet?
I don't know about if they did, they gonna be coming out this way.
Which way they come out?
A way you ain't gonna be able to get to them.
But
A way I can't tell you.
oh, you can't tell.
Oh yeah, Dan,
Did you see they told me can't?
you missed the verdict. Buddy.
Oh my God! But I know where they park. I know, right? He talking about he won't tell me.
That wasn't bad, y'all. That was a nice little jog.
Hold on, y'all.
That was a nice little jog, Dan. Yeah, not guilty on everything.
Go to the car.
except for
They
the gun
just,
for
oh my
Shannon.
God, they haters, y'all. They haters. Hold on.
No, don't go to people's car now. Don't do that. You know what? I'm not gonna comment. Let me not comment. I just know I wouldn't want anybody coming up to me in my car. But you know what I'm saying?
Such a haters.
Maybe you have to do that. Maybe that's what you got to do.
He walked away.
Dan,
Oh, you littering?
yeah, not guilty on everything except Shannon got hit with the gun.
I just caught
He
the
got
police
10 year
officer
sentence,
littering, y'all.
8 years probation, 2 years time served, so he's going home today. That's it. Everything else not guilty. Everything else, both murders,
I can go where they park at.
drugs, anything else that was on the indictment, it's all not guilty except for Shannon got that one gun that he kind of was gonna get because it's kind of like, of course.
See you later again. All right.
Y'all, I'm also monitoring to see because they're doing a press conference with Dilla.
Okay, so, there's Telfair. Great. So
We
we'll
have some
go
more
ahead and
court happening.
admit him back in. Thank you for pointing that out.
I don't know what this is.
All right, so it may be that new offers will be forthcoming to all of the defendants. I mean, these are still very serious charges. I know that some of you all are young. Is Miss Weaver, well, she's, okay. We have to start over because we're not taking any of this down. I can't see around all of my various computers.
Jess, I'm
to
beefing
see
with
that
you.
She wasn't down there. She did tell me
I
she
haven't
was running
seen you
out there,
here
so
in the stream
that's my bad.
consistently. I don't know what's going on, but we beefing. We beefing. Jess was rocking and rolling every day for about a good week, and now Jess has been in the wind. Court is back on, but for different defendants.
All right, so the Rule 22 was filed mere minutes ago, which is why I didn't have any notice of it.
Y'all, I am watching to see if any jurors get caught by Sylvia. She's still walking around outside, so I'm gonna stick with this. Hit the like button, people, please.
Okay.
We still have some activity happening.
What I am looking at.
Dang, Jess, where you at? 6 hours ahead. Oh, you must be in Europe.
Actually says that they would like to record proceedings that commence tomorrow. So and that's from Atlanta News First. That's the only one that has been forwarded to me, is requesting something starting tomorrow, which obviously would not cover today. And
what the heck is this? Are y'all serious?
It was forwarded to our public information office at 10:16. So there does not appear to have been any kind of Rule 22 even filed at the time this proceeding started at 9:30. That, regardless, you can tape under the circumstances that you and I already discussed. Just make sure not to show the defendants because they're not dressed out in civilian garb, if you will.
Lente.
All right. Thank you.
All right, Jess, we cool.
All right.
We cool.
We now have our court reporter.
Good to have you back.
And so before we were officially on the record with the court reporter, I had let everybody know.
All right, y'all, let me go to Max for a moment.
On March 17th, not the day of any.
You can barely hear him. You can't hear him. I'm gonna go back to Whitaker, y'all. We just can't hear Max. Just can't hear him, so sorry about that.
Other very serious felonies. Some of you are just charged with RICO or gang counts. Those are serious as well. I don't know if the state is going to regroup and take a new tack. I have no idea. I would imagine they'll be talking. And I'm just wondering if it might be a good idea to set maybe a new date for a final plea again. I know y'all had a final plea once in front of a senior judge. It wasn't the judge that was going to preside over the trials. I'm happy to do that. But I kind of am going to need to know sort of how each of these cases is going to progress, if there are going to be charges dropped or null pros, if the state is going to move forward with everything. And if there isn't resolution, then we are going to need to sort out a trial calendar, the time needed to try the case, whether there are any outstanding motions that need to be handled prior to a trial. And then if it's going to be a trial, any motions in limine, and at some point get proposed jury questionnaires and things like that. And it may be that it's a little too early, given the latest developments, for the state to be able to have any answers for that. I see that Mr. Body has been abandoned at council table and is sitting there all by himself, having been dragged into the case fairly late in the game, much like me. But Mr. Abadi, do you know the answer to any of the questions on how the state might intend to proceed?
I think some of your assumptions are probably correct. I think a new date in the future, the near future, would be the most beneficial for all parties to make sure that we're all on the same page. And if there are going to be any new updated offers, we can get those a little time to get those to council.
All right, so let's look at a calendar. Yes. Sure.
We were very close to a resolution today that was essentially a time-served offer. Mr. Murphy's been in custody for 18 months. We have asked for a slight modification to that offer. I would really like, if possible, because I will go into legislative session too.
Sure.
It's the holidays, and if he is this close to a time-served offer, I would like some consideration to perhaps get his offer done today. If the state feels like they can do it. I know Adrienne is gone. She's left Mr. Body here, but I have been texting with her. We're very close to her.
Okay, and that's fine with me, and I'm here all day, and I'm willing to entertain anybody's offers. So,
I have no issue with that. I know, in my, I guess, communication with Ms. Miller, I don't know if we're right there as it relates to the updated offer.
okay.
But I think if your honor is available this week at another time, there's a court appearance that we can do, whether it be via Zoom to take a plea. It sounds like the time is not the issue, it's the specific charges.
Okay, so, and I would assume all of the attorneys know what the pleas were for Mr. Nichols, Mr. Huey, and Mr. Ryan as well. I can certainly be available tomorrow. If you will recall our discussions at the bench, I'm not sure about my availability after that. But yeah, certainly, y'all work on that. And like I said, I'll be here all day tomorrow, and on and off. I have a couple of other things on my calendar tomorrow, but should be here for most of the day tomorrow as well. Does anybody else have an offer outstanding, or is everybody wanting to sort of wait on what might be coming forth new? Everybody wants to wait, but I would too. Okay. Is it premature to discuss length of trial if there is going to be a trial for any of these defendants? And if it is, that's fine. We can reconvene.
I mean, I think it would, my estimation would be no more than 90 days. That would be my estimation.
I think that is a reasonable estimation. Okay. All right. So why don't we look at the calendar and pick a date before the holidays? Would that be reasonable, Mr. Abadi, to think about a final
Doug's
date before the
father is
holidays?
at the courthouse.
Okay. Is everybody going to be?
Hold up. Thug's father.
You going up there? You going upstairs now? Okay, we're gonna go up there. All right, guys.
What is, isn't that Thug's father? Sorry, just a little bit of craziness going on. Isn't that Thug's dad
My
right
buddy,
there?
y'all.
I love you. I'm gonna call you in a minute. All right.
He didn't say much.
Okay, let's go talk to them.
You just can't hear what he's saying, man. Oh, he did wipe his nose though. All right.
And they threw things against the wall and it didn't stick. I'm thankful. I'm grateful. I just got so much emotion right now. I'm full, and I'm full. Day in, day out, going to work, having a personal life, coming back down here, sleeping in the courtroom. They having to wake me up, doing this thing over and over and over again repetitiously. Every day. Every day. My son stood up 30 months. My son stood up. And we was victorious. I'm thankful to God that a mother love went beyond the world. And I'm thankful. I never gave up on my son. Never. He said, Mama, I'm not taking it. I'm standing up. And I stood right by him every day. Every day of the week, I stood by my child. And he said, no. And I said, I'm going to stand with you. I'm going to stand with you to the end. And we stood down to the end. You never give up. No matter what's thrown against you. You never give up. Never. And he stood down. And I'm right here every day. Every day I stood up with him. Every night I prayed with him. And I told him, son, this is bigger than you. This is bigger than you. And I'm thankful to the people all over the world that prayed, gave me encouragement. He gave me encouragement. Big Jeff, Miss Sylvia, everybody around me. Taylor, Cole. I got so many people. My family members in Miami, Florida. Everybody that gave me hope and encouragement. And Diamante stood every day. He watched them say bad things about him and disgrace him. And I had him and I raised him. They divulged his character. They said bad things about him, but we got the victory. And in life, you never give up. Never. You never give up, no matter how bad it looks. God said he'll make the enemy your footstool. I look to the hills where my help come from. I had bad days. I had good days. I had emotional days. But I damn if I was going to give up. And I'm thankful for everybody that's been around me in my life who encouraged me. I'm emotional beyond words. I am emotional beyond words, beyond measures. A mother love. I never will give up. And I taught him that to give up, never give up. No matter what the traditional system say about him, never give up. Never give up. No matter what the words they had, the state versus Diamante. But God was victorious in this right now. He was victorious. God was victorious in this situation. And I'm thankful.
Amen.
I'm thankful. Fight, fight, fight.
No, that's Diamante's mom, y'all. That was well worth watching.
Y'all, look at who's here.
Hey, Ricky.
What you got to say, Chuck? What you got to say?
I'm about to go to the jail. I'll do that.
You're about to go to jail. Oh, Lord.
Anybody who has kids, and though you might not have been where she's been, you understand that feeling.
Look at God.
You understand that feeling.
So when are you gonna get out?
I'm trying to figure that out. I'm getting it resolved. Thank you. Get him out too.
All right, y'all. I'll go back to the court. I don't want to just totally hijack Miss Sylvia's screen, but I saw Thug's dad. I think we heard that Diamante's mom.
All right, guys, this was awesome. Y'all seen it? Y'all seen it? Huh?
All right, y'all. So we'll go back to the court and finish up. I just saw Thug's dad talking. I wanted to hear what he had to say. But we were given a treat, Diamante's mom.
Around like December 18th, which is
So everybody,
A little over 2
everybody
weeks
who's
from
late
now.
to the stream, I know people were asleep. I know some of y'all on the West Coast. This is still early. It's still 8:20 where some of y'all are. You know, it might even be earlier than that. There was a verdict today in the YSL RICO trial for the two remaining defendants, Yak Gotti, Diamante Kendrick. You saw his mom. You saw the emotion. You can probably tell. He was found totally not guilty of all charges. Yak Gotti is not guilty of all charges. That's RICO, that's murder, that's gun, that's drugs, gang affiliation, and all that stuff. He's not guilty. Yak Gotti is a free man. I mean, I imagine there might be some processing. I don't know at the jail that he has to go through, or I don't know if they just let him go. But as of today, he's a free man. Yak Gotti, everything he went through does not affect his criminal record at this point. He was stabbed 2 days ago. He's been through a lot. As his mom said, he was slandered. He had major names like people, people in the rap, hip hop journalist community, hip hop bloggers, etc., just dragged him through the mud just a couple of weeks ago. And as of now, he's a free man. He's been vindicated by the YSL RICO trial jury. So that's Yak. He's totally 100% not guilty of all charges. Shannon Stillwell, who was facing 2 murders, who was also facing gun charges, also RICO, also gang-related charges. Shannon Stillwell was found not guilty of all charges with the exception of one sole gun charge. The gun charge being him being a convicted felon in possession of a firearm. It had a mandatory minimum sentence of 10 years. So Judge Whitaker did not have any ability to sentence for under 10 years. She had to sentence him to 10 years. But in a big middle finger to the state, and frankly, a big hug to Stillwell, she sentenced him to 2 years to serve and 8 years on probation. So serve 2 in prison and 8 years on probation. And considering he's already been incarcerated for over 2 years, he essentially has already served his time. Therefore, Shannon Stillwell should be going home today as well. He will have that felony conviction on his record. He will have to serve 8 years clean as a freaking whistle. So he can't do anything wrong for the next 8 years. But he's going home today. So all of this pomp, all of this circumstance, and the only true convictions, the only true jury verdicts, the only jury verdict of guilty that the Fulton County DA's office was able to achieve was a felon in possession of a gun. Was a felon in possession of a gun. That's it. So they did get convictions as in the sense of guilty pleas by Thug, by Quay Nichols, by Lil Rod, by Montong. A bunch of people pleaded guilty. But they were only able to convince a jury of one thing, and that's that a felon had a gun. And that was really, the evidence for that was so Trump tight that at the beginning of this stream, I'm like, I don't see how you get out of that one, buddy. Now, what I don't want y'all to take me as saying is that Thug or anybody else should have done something different. I know a lot of people are going to say that. There is certainly a reason why you could say that and why you could look at it that way. I'm just saying, I am not saying that. I'm not saying somebody should have done something different, because y'all have to remember there's evidence we didn't see. There's evidence we didn't see because Thug took himself off of this case. The case was significantly shortened. And frankly, we never, Yak was just stabbed 2 days ago. You never know if Thug would have stayed in jail for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 months. You never know what might have happened to him in jail. You never know. He might have gotten into a fight. He might have gotten attacked. Those sorts of things didn't seem like they were happening to Thug. But my point is, I'm not going to say he should have done something differently, even though I totally get why people are going to say that. And it certainly does seem to have merit based on the verdict. His lawyer said, hey, we need to fight this to the end. And but I will tell y'all this though. I want y'all to think this. Everybody who's saying Thug should have fought this to the end, I want you to think of this one thing. All of those drugs and guns that were not Yak's, because Yak didn't live in that house. All of those drugs and guns that were not Yak's because Yak did not live in that house. Guess who did live in that house? Guess whose house that really was? Guess who would not have the same defense of, I don't even live here. This isn't my stuff. Yak had that defense. Guess who wouldn't have had that defense? The owner of the house. Do y'all see where I'm going? So we can't just say things were going to be a certain way. Right? Because those guns were in somebody's house, wasn't Yak's house. Those drugs, the codeine, the cocaine, the marijuana, the guns with the switch, that's a machine gun. That could be a federal charge, by the way. The regular guns, of which there were many, that was in somebody's house. That wasn't Yak's house. That's why Yak didn't get convicted. But somebody owned that house. So the idea that, oh, you know, I wouldn't be so quick to just say Thug should have, because, you know, once you start looking at all them guns, all that codeine, whatever amount of cocaine they found, you got a gun with a switch, which is a machine gun, which is a big deal. You got a bunch of guns in there. You know, now, could he own the guns as a non-convicted, as somebody who's not a felon? Maybe he can own the regular guns, but he can't own that switch. He can't own that machine gun, even as a person without a felony. You can't own cocaine. You can't own all that weed. You can't own all that codeine. Y'all feel me? So, you know, while I know Brian Steele said we could beat it, he might have been right. But when we're comparing Yak to Thug, remember, the drugs and stuff that they put on Yak, that wasn't Yak's house. It was Thug's house. So I'm not saying Thug was guilty. I'm saying that the jury would have looked at that differently when they were analyzing and deliberating over Thug's charges than Yak's charges, because that wasn't Yak's house and he didn't live there, and he, by all appearances, was just visiting. Okay, so we never know what would have happened if Thug would have stayed in the trial, but there's a possibility he could have gotten jammed up on something. That's my point. They better go find that third car. It's over. It's sad, but it's over. Slim, thank you for the super chat, y'all. They are live now. Hold up. Am I missing something? Who's live? I don't even know what I'm supposed to be looking at. Let me see. Miss Sylvia went off. Okay. Well, I could go back and replay it. Who was live? Yeah, I don't see. If y'all know somebody that's live, y'all let me know. So I'm gonna say, I know Brian still said we could beat it, but Brian was going to prove Thug wasn't living there. Okay, maybe. The question is, let's say Brian was going to offer evidence that Thug wasn't living there. Let's not say prove, okay? Because the jury was going to have to take the evidence and then make a determination. So there might have been some evidence that Thug wasn't living there. It might have been convincing, but maybe it wasn't convincing. You know what I'm saying? So my point is just, if you want to say Thug shouldn't have pleaded, fine. I don't have a problem with that. I'm just saying, I'm telling you the reasons why I don't say that. I'm just talking about myself. I'm just talking about me. It's a lease with his name on it. That's full possession, you ask me. A lease with whose name on it? I think I might have missed part of the conversation. Paige was talking about other people waiting trial. Read the comments. I've been said it. Yeah, that's what I literally have her right here. If y'all look at I just paused it. See?
Would that be a good day for everybody? People
talking about it right there. We were watching that already.
Are kind of nodding.
Wrapping it up.
Okay. All right. Why don't we set?
Judge, I have a calendar on the 18th. I don't know if that
All right, we could do the 17th. How about the 17th instead? That's 2 weeks from today. All right, why don't we set a final plea calendar for all of the defendants in this case for December 17th, and we can maybe know some more by then, and even for the people who aren't going to enter any type of a resolution at that point, we can talk a little more intelligently about what it's going to look like to move forward. But to the extent that there is going to be a trial for anybody, I mean, I'm thinking sooner rather than later. The facts and the evidence, some of the charges against these defendants are different than some of the charges that were.
One of the problems with proving Thug didn't live in his house is that he had a couple of gold records there. So yeah, that could have been something that he just left there. But for me as a juror, if the prosecution had enough sense to point that out to me, like, okay, Thug didn't live there. He was, what he's just letting his boys live there, but he didn't live there. But he left his gold records there. Like he just didn't care about them. He left like his first gold record there, his first record that went gold. He had a huge plaque and he just left it at the house where he didn't live. He didn't care enough about it to take it with him or put it in storage. Again, there's always an explanation for everything, but you would have had to explain that to me, because I'm thinking, though you might not live there permanently, it might not be your primary residence. Weren't you there? Also, you're going to have to explain, if you don't live there, why were you there when the police came to get you? That's another question. So you don't live there, but when we wanted to come arrest you, we found you there in your house that's in your name or a company you own or whatever. Your house, your name. When we wanted to arrest you, we found you at that location, but you don't live there. Okay, fine. Well, why is your stuff here? So again, is there an explanation? Possibly. You're gonna have to give me a pretty good one, though. You're gonna have to you're gonna have to give me a pretty good explanation why, when I wanted to find you and arrest you, I went to the place that is in your name, and that's where you were, but you don't live there. Okay, well, why is your stuff here? Why is it in your? So I'm just saying, like, there could have been possibly some explanation. I don't know. Anyway, y'all. I'm kind of going off on a tangent, just tripping. I'm just tripping like I do sometimes. Dennis Byron has a good interview with a juror on X. Okay, let's check it out. Thank you so much. Let's check it out. Breaking, I'm about to interview one of the jurors. He's live. Crap, can we go back? Oh, we can. All right, let me see. Get some volume here.
I'm gonna try to stay on your
talk to me.
I'm pretty angry.
Of the trial. Know what the verdict is right now. We just learned the verdict, and I have
and the attorneys
up listening to hip hop.
To any
stay with the trial until its conclusion, so you were able to hear
this isn't the
music, lyrics, and so forth. Did your viewpoint change? Did your viewpoint change at the end of the conclusion of this trial, or are you steadfast in that belief?
So when I say that I take what with the music and the lyrics and
I don't think this is the
other jurors share their viewpoint.
I had enough evidence back what they're told, and so that's what.
Is this the juror?
I did not go asking the other 15 jurors, well, how do you feel about
okay, it is. You back it up.
How do you respect or didn't feel? As for me,
how do you feel right now, knowing with the verdict right now?
Okay.
How do you feel right now? Talk to me.
I'm pretty angry at my fellow jurors. Pretty angry. I'm pretty angry.
Well, this is an alternate.
Not angry enough to curse because I don't do that.
Y'all, this might be an alternate. Now, I'm going to play a little bit of this, okay? I'm going to direct y'all to Dennis Byron if you want to hear the whole thing. I don't want to just, but we'll play a little bit. Some people are saying this is an alternate.
Okay.
Miss Lily, when you say he's talking to her, you mean on on this recording, or are you
I'm
saying
pretty,
there's
I'm,
another one?
I'm not happy with the way things have ended in this year plus trial. And I say year plus because this process has started longer than a year ago for us.
How's this
And
affected your life?
it has impacted my life in more ways than I can even explain right now. It's time that we'll never get back. And if I get emotional, please forgive me. But you can't get back time that you feel at this point feels wasted to me, right? Yeah, the impact on my life has it's been rough. I have 8 grandchildren, and it's taken time out of my time for them. It's taken time out of my time for my husband and my family. I've missed a lot of time that I would have been spending on my job, my fellow employers. You know, they're friends. So I haven't had that time with them at work. So I've missed a lot. I've missed a lot. I'm gonna try to stay on your questions as they come and not get too far off the road with those.
Okay, so let's take it back to the beginning. You as well as your other fellow jurors went to this trial with the Judge Glanville.
Yes.
You guys talked a lot, obviously, in the jury room. What was your view of the first judge on the case? And before we go into a lot of the other questions, what was your first view of the judge, and how did you think he handled the processes of the courtroom?
For me, I respected Judge Glanville. I felt that, first of all, there was a lot of disrespect from the defense attorneys against the judge that was, in my eyes, just awful. First of all, he's the high court. So many would say maybe he didn't have control of his court, but I just saw a lot of disrespect, especially from the defense side. And it played out in front of the people, I'm sure, for those who were watching live, and for us, even as jurors, it played out in the courtroom. And so the disrespect was there. Getting control of his courtroom was probably a little more challenging for him. But it was not it was a terrible representation, I think, of professional individuals.
Y'all try not to have a negative reaction, y'all. Her side did not carry the day, okay?
And how treatment was given toward the judge and the prosecution. I didn't feel, as women, I think we saw some very strong women in the courtroom who did their best to present against highfalutin attorneys who's paid millions of dollars, I'm sure, to do what they do best. And so they showed their butts in court. And so
all right, y'all, I'm gonna direct y'all to I'm gonna put this in the chat if y'all want to watch. I'm not gonna play too much of this. That is the X account to Mr. Dennis Byron. If you want to go watch that, I am going to not play much of that because one, I haven't had any communication with him, so I don't want him to feel like I'm, hijacking his work there. But also, looks like people are getting a little triggered by this lady. So, this lady that we were just listening to, I believe, was an alternate. I believe she was an alternate juror who, as you heard, right? As you heard, had a certain type of opinion about the trial. And it wasn't what all of us would have expected somebody to say. So People are like, yeah, she's pissing me off. There's one more thing I wanted to play, which was the press conference after the verdict, but I'm not finding any. I guess they'll come out with the press conference later. That juror probably I don't know if was she the mole. Well, she was an alternate, I believe. So she did not get to help make the decision at the end of the day. Y'all, I'm gonna go ahead and play this.
In the case as it existed with the last 6, but a lot of them are the same. And I think that state should be pretty ready to go. So I'm envisioning like by February, we'd be trying the next case to the extent that we're going to be trying any cases.
Yes, Your Honor. Eric Johnson for Mr.
Yes, sir.
The question I would have, Your Honor.
Do me a favor and talk into the mic because we do have people on Zoom and it's easier for them to hear.
Yes,
Thanks.
Your Honor.
You can pick it up if you want. You're kind of tall. I don't think you want to hunch over like
Eric
that.
Johnson for Mr. Eppinger. The question that I had, Your Honor, is given the timing and scheduling that we're talking about, how long would it take for the transcript of the prior trial to be prepared? Because I know that there were certain witnesses that testified in the prior trial whose testimony may be used again in additional trial.
So it would, yeah, and that it's a good point. It would probably, to the extent anybody knows which witnesses, that would be helpful so that the court reporter or court reporters can focus on that testimony instead of just starting from day one and going all the way through. Because I think if we do day one all the way through, it's going to be a while. And the court reporters would probably like a holiday as well. So be thinking about, if you all are thinking I'm going to trial, be thinking about which of the witnesses' testimony you would like, and then we can have the court reporters focus on those.
And I guess my question, because it's likely Mr. Eppinger will be proceeding to trial, notwithstanding whatever happens resulting from this verdict, is the court going to take into consideration the time that the court reporter would need to prepare that in the scheduling the?
Well, I'll have to.
Okay. But I will inform her as to which specific witnesses, the testimony that I need.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Any other kind of procedural matters? Does anybody have motions outstanding? You shouldn't because you've already been to a final plea, but.
Your Honor, I will likely have a plea in guard. Is that something we can argue in 17?
Get it filed, and I don't know if anything, I mean, I'll have to look, and I'm sure the state might have a response, but yeah, we can go ahead and take care of that, whether it's substantively or on some sort of a other basis, we'll handle that. But please get it filed like before the end of this week.
Understood. And Your Honor, I know that Mr. Eppinger does have a
Previously filed immunity motion that would need to be heard at some point in time.
Really?
Yes.
Well, I don't know why nobody else has heard that already.
It was filed.
Did you all have a final plea date without that having been heard?
It was never called for a hearing. It was filed quite a while ago before his case was severed on the initial trial. So that would need to be heard at some point. That may be dispositive of some of the
Okay,
cases.
how quick, it may be, it may not be. How quickly could the state and the defense be ready to have that heard? Because that may be something we can hear before the holidays. Maybe.
I guess I don't know what the immunity motion. Microphone.
I mean, I assume he's charged with shooting 2 police officers, right?
That is correct, Your Honor. And that is the circumstance under which the testimony from the prior trial will be needed to possibly impeach the witness at that immunity.
So you'd like that even by the time of the immunity motion or the immunity hearing?
I just need the immunity hearing scheduled at a time in which I can obtain that, Your Honor. That would be.
Right. That's what I'm saying is you'd like the transcript or at least a rough of the transcript of, well, you'd need an official transcript to impeach them of whichever witnesses those are. So you can go ahead and get me and the court reporters a list of those witnesses by the end of the day today.
Yes, Your Honor.
So that they can be focused on that. And then I will find out from them their time estimate and we'll set the immunity hearing at a time after those transcripts are available.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So the immunity motion is related.
So it would be related to the shooting of the 2 officers. So,
The state could be ready tomorrow.
okay. Well, we can't have the transcripts ready tomorrow, but I hear you. So we'll be waiting on the transcripts. And as soon as those are available, we can set that.
I don't think he has an immunity right as it relates to the shooting of the 2 officers. That's why they were trying to execute it on the threat. There's like a waste of the court's time.
So I don't want to get into substance now, but if the state has not filed a written response and would like to, go ahead and get that in by the end of the week.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Anybody else with outstanding motions?
Your Honor, not an unstanding motion. Back here, Attorney Terrell Dart for Mr. McMullen. I was just appointed and filed an entry on this case August 5th, so I don't have any discovery or anything. I'll be concerned trying to be ready by February to try this.
Oh, you can get ready by February. You're a defense attorney.
I hear you, Your Honor. I'm just letting the court know.
This is going to be a 90-day trial this time, not a 2-year trial.
I hear you.
And I am sure that Mr. Abadi will provide you with all of the discovery. It's in about 1 million Dropbox links, but I bet he'll consolidate it into one for you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. And frankly, whomever the prior attorney was on the case really should already have discovery and it's their responsibility to provide that to you. Do you know who the prior attorney was?
Your Honor, I have no idea who that may have been.
I mean, I don't either offhand, but that might be a route to go as well. But Mr. Abadi will get it to you. What else?
Your Honor, I have a request on behalf of Mr. Mender.
Yes, ma'am.
Nicole Fagan on behalf of Mr. Mender. If we are going to have another final plea on the 17th, if we could request that the state have all offers, whatever's on the table by the 14th so that we can communicate so it doesn't happen in the rush of the moment.
Sure. Yeah, I guess we're not in my regular courtroom and this is not my regular team of people, but my rule is that the state needs to have the final offers communicated to the defense at least 2 business days in advance of the final plea. The 14th is actually a Saturday, so let's say by close of business the 13th, 5 p.m. on the 13th, all offers need to be communicated. Thank you for bringing that up. All right, who is Melissa Reynolds in the waiting room? Anybody know? It could be somebody with I guess, one of the prisons. So let me go ahead and admit them and see. Yes. Is that Mr. Adams? Okay. All right. Well, I'm sorry that he missed most of the status conference, but if you can update him. And are you able, I think that all of the prisons have the ability to let y'all Zoom privately with attorney and client? Okay, and I can even leave y'all if you'd like in a breakout room after this is over with, so you can catch him up. I think we can do that. My staff attorney is saying no, we can't. Why can we not? Just when we're finished, you would just need to join the Zoom on your phone and you can step into that little conference room back there so that you can talk privately and y'all will be in a breakout room. So only the 2 of you will be able to hear what's going on. Okay, so Mr. Adams, your attorney's going to catch you up with what you missed. We've basically just been talking about scheduling. We haven't discussed anything substantive. All right, so I think that's it. And we will see everybody back here.
Last thing, one more thing, I'm sorry.
No problem.
Your Honor, upon Mr. Mender's severance, we didn't receive any new discoveries. So I'm not sure if any new discoveries outstanding, and I can't speak for any other attorney on the case, but everyone here has been severed. So I don't know if everyone has everything.
All right. Why don't I ask Mr. Abadi, can you just gather up all the discovery and maybe in order to make sure that everybody has everything, just reserve on everybody? All right, I appreciate that. All right, anything else? All right, thank you all for your time, and we will reconvene on December 17th. I'll see everybody back then. Thank you.
All right, y'all. I think I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up there, people. I think we have been able to stick together through this entire trial. I do think I will continue to live stream in the morning. I'll probably put together some kind of little morning show. It is over, y'all. It's over. It's done. It's done. It's done. It's done. It's a wrap. Meaning for Shannon and for Yak. Of course, there are other people who have still not, their trial hasn't even started. So that's what Judge Whitaker was talking about right there. So I do think I'm gonna be continuing with this. We'll see if we can get a crowd for some morning shows. Talk about the news, talk about law, talk about crime, etc. Yes, that was very intense. Y'all, I just posted the link for the other channel. I'm gonna be posting for y'all who like the really stuff. I'm gonna be posting. I have somebody working on something for that channel right now. I'm gonna be posting a lot of videos on that channel. So as far as streaming the new YSL trial, I don't know for sure that there are going to be cameras in the courtroom. So that is that's a big question. I know a lot of y'all have that question. If there are court cameras in the courtroom, there's going to be different trials too. So I imagine some of those trials, are they going to go in sequence? Are they going to be done all at the same time with different judges? I'm not really sure. Starting tomorrow. Well, listen, if there are other trials, we'll get back here. We'll make a game plan. I'm particularly interested to see what will happen with a few of the names. Garlington would be right at the top of the list. I hope Miles Farley has his charges dropped and that guy goes home, particularly for the drinks murder. Eppinger, that's gonna be an intense one because he shot the cop. So yeah, I'm definitely interested in streaming, but we'll have to see what the camera situation and setup is like. But if they have a camera, we'll be there. We'll be there. So y'all, again, I'm gonna post one more time. If you're not following the Morbid Law, please do. I just posted the link. Other than that, y'all, I'm about to go eat some lunch. And yeah, Shannon is out. Is Shannon not getting out? Why wouldn't Shannon get out? Why wouldn't Shannon get out? Shannon should be out today. And so should Yak should definitely be out. So all right, y'all. I will see y'all tomorrow. I should be back tomorrow. So if y'all haven't subscribed to this channel, subscribe. If you haven't hit the like, hit the like. We should be, Shannon should be, they should probably both going through some kind of processing at the jail. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. If you haven't hit the like, hit the like. And I do expect to just continue and keep streaming every morning. So see you tomorrow, Kiera. Yeah. Another person who I was going to be getting on who I haven't been seeing around that often. So see y'all tomorrow morning, about 8:30. We'll be back. Y'all have a good afternoon. Enjoy. See y'all then. Bye-bye.